Welcome aboard. I took the wind out of her sail right there. Welcome aboard the AM show. It's a Wednesday morning. It's going to be wunderbar, as the Germans would say. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and she is?
I'm Sweetie Abochi, and I love doing this all the time, every Monday to Friday. Welcome aboard the AM show. Now, let's tell you what's in store for you this morning. We'll start by serving you the AM news. I anchor that myself. And after that, we review the newspapers. Dr. Kwame Asasante is a political scientist and the head of European Studies at the University of Ghana. And then we also have Afelmoni, former GJA president, and they'll be joining us to review the newspapers. After that, then Muftan Abil Abdullahi will serve you AM Sports. Ben, what's happening in our big stories today?
Well, the minority has torn into some of the appointees, the nominees of President John Dramani Mahama. And here's why. They say there's no regional balance. But the majority has kicked against that, saying it is not true. While the minority says this contravenes constitutional provisions, the minority is saying, where is the evidence? Show us the evidence. It's being keenly contested. And we'll delve into the numbers, the facts and the figures when it comes to that. How many are the nominees? Well, so far 42 and 6 have been approved. But is it true that there's no regional balance? We'll be contemplating that right here on the show.
Also, some youth in Bole-Bamboi are upset that their member of parliament, his name is missing from the appointments coming in. Although we're asking them to be calm, we'll get into the details when we get there and discuss. We also bring you a continuation of the vetting. There are 42 ministers so far, but we'll continue the vetting processes today, and then we'll take you live to Parliament Appointments Committee and see what questions they're asking, how are we ascertaining the competency of these ministers designate, and whether or not they will be confirmed. We know now that about 3 of them, or 6, have been confirmed so far. So stick and stay with us on the AM show. All the details will come up shortly. Let's get into the AM news now. You are still watching the AM show in a very unconventional way. We want to bring you some highlights of some of the things that happened in Parliament yesterday. Let's take a look and we'll be back to continue the show.
The person presenting the paper, a short explanatory statement may be made. I'm not going to 3. So the honorable member is completely out of order. Yes, leader.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, my respected colleague, who is the applicant in this matter, made an application. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Kojo Opon-Kroma, Member of Parliament for Ofuase Ayebi, rose on his feet under Order 97.3 to make his application. In mounting his application, he relied on Order 97.3, and for the avoidance of doubt, I quote, "A short explanatory statement shall be made by the person presenting a paper when requested by the House or a member upon presentation." So he has requested. He rose on his feet to make an application. Mr. Speaker.
Leader, thank you very much. But at this juncture, I'll turn down the application. Kojo, let me turn your application down based on 2. That if so desired by the person presenting the paper. So if the person decided not to give Honorable Kojo. Honorable Kojo.
If you kindly indulge me, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, once you have made
please, you cannot challenge the speaker, and you must allow the speaker to give you the chance to speak. The speaker must allow you to speak.
That is what I'm requesting of the speaker.
I've not heard the speaker.
Yeah, but that is what I'm
Honorable Leader, I've also not given you the chance to also speak.
That is what I'm requesting of the speaker.
So, Kojo, let me hear you.
Mr. Speaker, please indulge me. Order 97.2 says that if the presenter of the paper so desires, then he may give a short explanatory statement. But 97.3 says that a member may request for that explanation. And where that request is made, Mr. Speaker, a short explanatory statement shall be made, not even made.
Very well.
So I come under 97.3 with my request, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Very well. Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, the honorable member for, is it Ayurbi?
Ofonsi Ayurbi.
Ofonsi Ayurbi is coming under Order 97,
3.
2 and 3. 2 and 3.
He didn't come 2 and 3. He said Order 97, 3.
97, 3. But Mr. Speaker, we have passed the stage of Order 97. Order 97 is talking about the presentation of a paper. What he has done is not to present a paper. What he has done is to move for the adoption of a report. Is to move for the adoption of a report. He is not presenting a paper. I presented a paper. So at the point when I presented the paper, you could have then asked me, instead of just to present the paper, to give some explanation as to what was contained in the paper. So we've gone past there. We've gone past there. This one is moving for the adoption of a report. So let him move for the adoption of his report.
Yes. Yes, Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the literalist interpretation the literalist approach to interpretation, Mr. Speaker, is not what operates today. This is a House of Parliament. We must be purposeful in how we interpret our rules. We must be purposeful. But, Mr. Speaker, this is not a time to litigate on matters of this nature. Mr. Speaker, it's early days. What is important is to ensure that ministers of state are approved to take charge of our ministries. The ministries are not for civil servants to manage. It's for political leaders with a political mandate to manage. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that would revisit laying of papers and presentation of reports. Mr. Speaker, our reports themselves, when you talk about reports, are they not the same items that are described as papers? The acting clerk may allow me to intervene for the applicant. The applicant would want to pick something. Mr. Speaker, the report, are they not the papers that have been laid? So the argument that the horses have bolted and there's an empty stable will not suffice. But, Mr. Speaker, will not litigate this matter today.
Honorable members,
Right.
Please. No, you haven't gotten. No. Honorable First Deputy Speaker, may you take your seat first.
Right, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable First Deputy Speaker, I'm not giving you the opportunity. Honorable members, I believe the first-timers are monitoring. In the House, we deal with procedural. And what we are talking about is procedure for presenting papers. So, Honorable Kojo Oponkroma, I think you agree with us to move on. I've already ruled. So the motion has been moved. I'm looking for someone to second the motion. Yes. Honorable Deputy Major, are you seconding the motion? No, if you are not seconding the motion, I'm not giving you the floor. I want someone who will second the motion. Yes, Honorable Afenyo, you may second the motion.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minority Leader, please address the chair.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion moved by the chair of the committee. Mr. Speaker, indeed, the Right Honorable Speaker read to us this communication from His Excellency the President. At the time the communication got to this House, the one who signed it was the Secretary to Mr. President. The Speaker, at the hearing, the matter was raised, and I must state for public records that His Excellency subsequently brought a letter signed by him himself, and that put that matter of constitutional procedure of a sort to a peaceful rest. Mr. Speaker, as contained in page 2 of this 48-page report, the committee requested for and received from National Intelligence Bureau a security report on the nominees. And I must say that all three reports proved favorable. We therefore proceeded to hear them. Mr. Speaker, first on our respected colleague, the Majority Leader, Dr. Kassiel Ato Ban-Forson. He distinguished himself. The necessary questions were asked him. He explained to the best of his ability. Of course, there were clear commitments that our side, the minority, expected from him regarding some promises that his party made in its manifesto. These we expected him to have given us clear, straightforward answers. But, Mr. Speaker, he coming under the fact that he's not been to the ministry and there's need for some consultations, was open in his answers. Mr. Speaker, this House will hold his feet to the fire by demanding answers from him, even as he assumes that high office. Mr. Speaker, we're also not too sure about his designation. The executive instrument establishing the ministry talked about Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, whereas the letter to us referred to him as the Minister of Finance designate. So I believe that that is a matter that has to be done, because it's a constitutional matter that I believe that the President may have to look at. Mr. Speaker, this government has made a lot of promises that it is going to repeal some taxes at our ports. Those port taxes have still not been repealed, but I can understand, because they don't have a Minister of Finance. We can understand that because they have not presented their first budget. But at least we expect them to make a public commitment. To make a public commitment that indeed, given the opportunity, they walk the talk. Importers are anxious. They are expectant. They want to see taxes and levies reduced. They want to see taxes that you call obnoxious taxes repealed. You promise them great reliefs. Those importers are expectant. Mr. Speaker, the all-important support for the private sector initiative, the 1D1F, we asked the minister why in opposition he did not support the 1D1F. His views were to the effect that these exemptions, when given, are often abused. But Mr. Speaker, merely saying that exemptions are abused is not enough. What is important is for government to put in place measures to ensure that those who benefit and use these benefits for the good of industry. Again, it appears that in opposition, he acted perhaps merely for the sake of politics. We still believe that the only way for this government to survive is to ensure a thriving private sector. Giving or granting exemption to the private sector is something that must happen. It must be done. You can't continue to tax the private sector. I spoke about tax waivers yesterday. I will speak about tax waivers today, and I'll speak about it tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, they are talking about their so-called big push. The so-called big push was again re-echoed by my respected colleague Artis Vertin. Again, we are holding him to the commitment he's made. Mr. Speaker, for the first time, he defined the 24-hour economy. All these months that they were talking about 24-hour economy, there was total confusion. He now says that the 24-hour economy is only going to look at the real sector of our economy. So we are looking at the manufacturing sector, the mining sector. He said so for the record, and he's been captured. If you read page 9 of the report, I have the 48-page report. I have it with me. And that is what he referred to, that the 24-hour economy is going to concentrate on the real sector. I am sure that if this concentration is done, yes, it's here. Funding government machinery. He said the implementation of it. He's talked about it generally. Mr. Speaker, if they really implement the 24-hour economy, we will not be seeing desperate youths on our streets. We will not be seeing desperate youths invading people's company premises. We will not be seeing violence. We will not be seeing unemployment at high levels. So, Mr. Speaker, we look forward to the resetting agenda that my respected colleague talked about. But, Mr. Speaker, he's a member of this House, a fourth termer. He's distinguished himself, a fifth termer, sorry. Honorable Amakofiwa, thank you. No, my senior. Yes, he's my senior, that's correct. Though we agreed to enter this chamber the same year, I was not fortunate. I lost my primaries by a single vote. And I had to go back to the assembly to go and contest again as an assemblyman and to become a presiding member and to catapult myself into the chamber 4 years after. So I agree. Atu is my senior in this chamber. That's fine. Mr. Speaker, I have absolute confidence in him that being a young man, he's 46, he served as a deputy minister, but what he told me during the inauguration, Here was a young man who came into the chamber and was seated behind the pillar. Nobody saw him. Nobody recognized him. He didn't even qualify for leadership of committee. By the grace of God, industry and patience, he's gotten to where he's gotten to. I believe that Atu's rise to that high office should be an inspiration. And I tell him that he should not forget about that. If he falls, it will be the fall of the Ghanaian youth. Going to manage an economy is no joke. We can only pray for him, wish him well, pray that he works with a team there, consult more, and be firm in his own approach to things. It's not a very popular position to take in government. His party people will come after him. Other government ministers will be on him because everybody would be anxious to have a bite at the national cake. So he should be minded of the challenge ahead of him. Mr. Speaker, the next person, our own respected colleague, John Abdullahi Jinapo, who is going to the Energy Ministry. Mr. Speaker, I will rest my case on him as there are some more aspects in that area that I would not attempt to go there. There are people who are well versed in those energy-related issues, and I know that they are very anxious to make a meaningful contribution in that area. So I will skip him. Suffice to state that he is such an affable fellow. If we look at his family, his brother is with us. He distinguished himself. He is on the other side. And Ghanaians should watch this, that the politics we do should not divide a family. The politics.
And this is the news review segment. Our guest joining us, Afilmoni, is former GJA president. He's joining us in studio to help us discuss the stories in here. And joining us via phone is Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, political scientist and the head of European Studies at the University of Ghana. Let me start from Doc. Doc, good morning. Okay, we will try and reconnect with Doc, but Ben and I are here to steer the conversations. Mr. Moni, good morning to you. How are you?
Bright as usual.
And I love the colors.
Thank you.
Yeah, very vibrant.
Thank you.
Benjamin Akapo, nice tie.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And today, of course, for those who are used to it, Dr. Asah-Asante will be joining us on the phone today. And we apologize for some of what you've seen us not bring you this morning, but we're taking it off from here. Some technical glitches that, we have to get around.
Okay.
Afilmoni, a lot has been happening. What is your take? What are your thoughts for us this morning before we get into the
dizzying news cycle. But I'll make a short mental trip to the US to...
Did you say mental trip?
Yes, to the US
Okay.
to drink from the fountain of Trumpism.
I see.
And its implications for Ghana and the rest of the world. Trump says God saved him from the assassin's bullet, which ripped through his ears.
Ripped through?
Yes, it ripped through his ear.
Ripped through?
Yeah.
Glazed?
I thought it was just because I don't know whether it ripped through his ear. I saw a slight bruise. I don't know whether it even hit the ear.
It was life-threatening attack.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
Anyway, then I got the wrong memo. Because what I saw was just
It says God said
something
saved his life
grazing.
for a purpose in order to make America great again. And the tide of sweeping change which is taking place in America has implications in this global village, particularly Ghana. For instance, he's set out to end citizens' rights, whereby foreigners who are born in America, who give birth to America, their children become Americans by birth. And it says it will be a policy now to end the mainstreaming of gender and race into private and public life in America. There will no more be gender social engineering, which will ensure that America is defined by race and gender, men, women, lesbians, and all that. And it says now it's a policy. America has only one policy: male and female. Nothing more, nothing else.
I've seen part of his, I don't know whether to call it a proposal as far as the DEI is concerned. And it makes for interesting reading. Trump doing what Trump does.
Yes. And all right, then some certain states have filed suit to challenge this policy.
Yeah.
We'll see how it pans out. But as I said, it's best repeating that this will have profound implications for Ghana, especially the fight against LGBTQI+. I'm inclined to believe that this will weaken the resolve of advocates for LGBTQI+, and it will give Republicans like Ghana breathing space as far as their circumstances, economic circumstances are concerned. So these are my thoughts, and I believe we will watch with eagle's eyes what's happening in America, because when America coughs, we all stand to sneeze.
Right.
Catch a
And he's
cold.
already signed some executive orders withdrawing from WHO.
Yes.
The gender bid is part of it.
Yeah.
There's the refugee resettlement issues. I think there's even a ban on hiring people. There's a freeze on hiring. There's so many
even
executive orders that
press
first
freedom.
day in office.
Press freedom.
Yes. Interesting times in America.
Press freedom to America. Interesting.
Yeah. But let me check if Dr. Kwame Asasante is with us so that we can get into his thoughts as well. He's not okay. He will join us in the course of the time. But let me get into the daily graphic, talk about hitting the ground running. On the front page, cash flow woes cripple senior high school food supply, according to the education minister designate. 17 more ministers nominated. Cabinet secretary, 9 presidential staffers also named. We brought you that list yesterday, and we'll still get into it. On attaining food sufficiency, government to introduce 2 agric programs. That was the minister designate for agriculture yesterday, talking about those 2 programs. And let's start from there. That story is on page 13 of the daily graphic. And it reads that government of President John Dramani Mahama will introduce 2 new agricultural programs, namely Feed Ghana and Feed the Industry, as direct measures to achieve food sufficiency in the country. The sector minister designate, Eric Opoku, has told the Appointments Committee of Parliament, that was yesterday. Mr. Moni, I want to come to you, but let me add the story quickly before I get there on the vetting and the nominations that we are seeing coming in. President John Dramani Mahama has submitted the tallest list of ministerial nominees to Parliament for approval. Tallest? Okay. Daily graphic, I'm not sure about the tallest. Taking the number.
Tallest, I guess, in the sense of, he's been sending them
thoughts.
Yeah.
So far, this is the
tallest. All right. In fulfillment of his promise to nominate all cabinet ministers for parliamentary approval within the first 14 days and form his government in the shortest possible time. I'm not. Okay, let me throw this to you. Is he on course? You see him concluding on all these appointments and nominations in 14 days. Have we not passed 14 days, actually?
I think the 13
days was on Monday. So today is 15 days. Yeah.
So we'll give him the pass mark for working within the time frame. And remember those who were doubting that he could meet the deadline, he set. Nobody forced him. He did set the deadline, and it kudos to him that he's able to fulfill his promise. And people are also speaking reverential terms.
Yeah.
The equality of nominees and the speed with which they were also approved by Parliament. It's one thing shining during the vetting. When it comes to rhetoric, many people will pass. But when it comes to action, that's where you prove your mettle. The point can hardly be articulated that there's no time to waste. No excuse for non-performance. They have no choice than to perform at full throttle because Ghanaians are expectant. Ghanaians have indicated that non-performance will be punished at the next elections within 4 years. So the ministers should go all out there to justify their nomination and their appointment at this critical stage of Ghana's history. Our democratic governance landscape is becoming more complex, more demanding, more tasking. So their task is one of cathedral proportions, and they have no excuse to perform.
What about what the Great Minister designate has been talking about, Feed Ghana and Feed the Industry? I think the first one, Feed Ghana, focuses on ensuring domestic food availability, and Feed the Industry will focus on employing sustainable farming practices to drive, quote, the nation towards food sufficiency. These are great ideas, are they not?
Great ideas, and the Operation Feed Yourself, this policy ignites a muscle memory.
Yes.
Of Operation Feed Yourself in the 90s, which caught fire. In fact, almost every Ghanaian was involved in backyard gardening, and that also...
Even in schools,
we had that. Yeah,
yes, especially
in
schools.
When I remember in those days, in the 70s, we were doing farming, serious farming, which also contributed to the downsizing of the school budget, and full availability was also guaranteed.
Yeah.
So let's see how Ghanaians will embrace this policy. It will depend on the seriousness with which officials will push this policy. And so we all know that we ought to be food secure because we have no excuse. Land in overabundance. When you drive through the countryside, you see vast lands uncultivated and all that. Sometimes we allow bushfires to rip through the vast lands. And then I was talking to one diplomat who says Ghana has no excuse to wallow in poverty. He says you can plant any time of the year and you can harvest any time of the year, unlike Europe, which are compelled by climatic conditions to plant in a very short time frame.
Right.
So Operation Feed Yourself is back, and let's see how Eric Opoko will operationalize this Operation Feed Yourself.
Okay.
Otherwise, Ghanaians will judge him again and then show him the verdict.
Okay. Ben, some thoughts on this?
I will say the president gave his verdict about, 14 days. And I think looking at the number so far, this is swift and it's commendable. With our politicians, it's not to lower the standards. So we must pin them to exactly what they say. But at the same time, in a jurisdiction where people say they'll deliver A and often deliver Z, when someone comes close, that person has to be commended. And looking at the number of nominees that have been brought to bear in total, I think it's refreshing. We hope that in the coming days, everything will be settled.
Yeah.
And that appointments, apart from the appointments, the nominees will also be, at least those who sail through. You cannot merely assume that because the NDC has this wide majority, everyone will be passed. That's something else I want to see at some point in our future, where someone may be nominated, but even having the majority would not guarantee that you would sail through if the person really doesn't have a good grasp of the issues. And in the past, we've seen some ministers asked certain questions. I don't want to mention names. But the answers that were given, and there was an uproar, if you remember, in the Akufo-Addo administration. I will not mention names. It's not fitting. But some people did not even seem to have a grasp of what they were getting themselves into. Yet, they got a clean bill of health, and they sailed through, and we saw it. I mean, if we don't stand for such quality, and we keep, we have the majority, so let's go ahead, we'll face some of the problems we face. But for now, I'll commend the president for how far we've come, but still asking him to do more.
Yeah.
You get it? If you said 14 days, today is 15 days, okay, we can cut you some slack, but ensure that things are done. And also, the appointments committee should move this forward, because we really don't have time.
At all.
And we're already beginning to mark President Mahama. There's no time to.
No time.
He must hit the ground running.
Said he didn't need a holiday anymore.
No
honeymoon.
Time to waste, no
So,
it is what it is.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to point out, these are glittering nominees and who have the track record to perform. But in terms of gender balance, I think the percentage of women in the list is minuscule, to say the very least. So there's a need to strike some balance along the way. Otherwise, for the first time, we have a female president.
Vice president.
Vice president, which is huge in terms of gender representation. But in terms of the number of ministers, I think the percentage is on the low side, so minuscule.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the counter-argument is that we do have an impressive number of female MPs. That was the argument I think I was following on social media, that they don't necessarily have to nominate female MPs from parliament to ministerial positions just because we need to fill the space for women. Are these women competent enough to do the work that is required in those ministries? I don't think it comes down to just put the women there because we need to have, gender equality and gender balance and all that. But it's also about competence. Remember, this man.
I'm inclined to believe that we have the women.
Have they put themselves up?
You can feed them out.
I see what you're trying to do.
No, I think that the conversations about gender balance should not just be put women there because we need to see women there. Who are these? Yes, put the right women there. Let these women. I don't like to use the word compete, but let them compete for the same opportunities as the men, and then the best ones. I always say, let the best ones win, right? So if the women didn't, Mahama has been receiving thousands of CVs.
Thousands.
So I'm sure he scanned through. He consulted people. The women that have come forward so far, Na, Momo, Latte, a number of them. I'm sure those names came up. They went through some vetting processes and they came out as nominees, right? So I think we should move past, put women there because we need women there, and give women the opportunities to even, grow their skills, become more competent, so that it's a natural thing that happens, and not just put the women there because.
But I still believe that he can still cast his net wider field to rope him.
That's an argument we can make.
I mean, in terms of the parliamentary situation, the president has a free hand to appoint outside of parliament.
Yeah.
He can appoint, so to speak, an ordinary citizen of Ghana, whether male or female, to complement those that will be picked from parliament. I still believe that we can have ministers. If you want to be a minister, you'll be a minister. If you want to be an MP, be an MP. But that's something that we'll have to resolve in the future, especially with the Constitutional Review Commission, the latest add-on for a further action to be taken, led by Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh. But then again, I feel, some of the batches of nominations that we've had a number of women in there. Even yesterday, I was pointing out that when you look at the presidential staffers, the list, the 10, it was 50-50. So five women, 5 men. I don't think the president will be able to have a perfect balance. But I think the issue is to try as much as possible to be at or slightly lower than or even above what promises were made. In the past, there have been promises about 30% and all of that. I feel where it is possible, it should be even more. Which is why, and I'll just end on this and try and find out whether Dr. Asan Asante is with us. At the district level elections, the last time, right, you remember when some some appointments were revoked at the DCE and other levels, people felt a little more aggrieved because there was already a paucity of women. And some of those who had been removed also included women. So some people felt, again, it brought up the conversation about quality versus quantity and performance, like you said, versus, oh, it's just gender, so the person should be there. You get it? Those conversations are there, but I feel we do need some affirmative action in our politics to empower women. Look at our education. Typical example, look at the University of Ghana. If you go back and you look into the numbers before affirmative action, they were dire. The numbers of women getting into the university. Because if you wanted to, in some areas, for example, the sciences, if you wanted to peg it at the same level for all of them, over time, things have happened. But back then, it would practically mean that in any given class, you would have maybe 90%, 85% boys in there. Thanks to affirmative action. In fact, in a lot of these institutions now, you have more women than men. So I think over time, we can apply some, here and there, not wholesale, here and there, and over time it will catch up.
Right.
Michelle.
So let's continue. But I just want to chip in that if the argument is solely on ministerial appointments or nominations, maybe it can hold. But don't forget that there are so many state-owned enterprises who have women. MFA, Newcastle. There's so many other women, who've been nominated to various positions. So maybe later when we discuss this in our big stories, I want to get into the thoughts of both sides and see what really the argument is. Government will restructure DRIP's initiative. Ahmed Ibrahim, yesterday, he was saying that we cannot let that investment go waste. And I remember in the lead up to elections, this DRIP equipment was a center of so much controversy and violence because some people said the NPP had put their posters on it and, it's not yours, it's for us. So why put the NPP paraphernalia on it? But let's move on. What do Ghanaians say about military rule? 7 key observations. It's an editorial. You can pick it up and read for yourself. Alban Bagbin has been saying some things in Cote d'Ivoire. The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, has emphasized the need for African countries to unite and cooperate under the Pan-Africanism framework to promote democracy, stability, and development. And speaking at the National Assembly of Cote d'Ivoire, Mr. Bagbin stressed the importance of collective efforts among African legislators to meet the aspirations of the African people. And on the back page, Kaswa juvenile killer prays for forgiveness. It was, quote, "It was not my intention to kill my dear friend and to also end his life this way. I pray the court would forgive all my sins and give me a second chance." These were the plea of the 15-year-old juvenile found guilty of conspiring with a teenager to murder a 10-year-old boy in Kaswa for a money ritual. Why are 15-year-olds involved in money ritual and killing people, and now you're praying the court for forgiveness? Young man. Mr. Money, that's all. I'll end here for the Daily Graphic, and we can get into other papers. But if you have some reflections on those two stories I just ended with.
I'll do some reflective thinking briefly on the Kaswa killers, alleged killers, and underline the need for the media or media practitioners to ingest the highest sense of responsibility and professionalism, whatever they do. The law of exposure by John Maxwell says that whatever enters the mind occupies the mind, shapes the mind, and determines what you do or what you become. So if we feed the public, especially the young ones whose minds are so fertile with gangsterism, with armed robbery scenes and all that, money rituals, pornography and all that. They imbibe them, and this shapes their lives and determines what they do and what they become. And the boys did confess that they imbibe those ideas from the media, from the screen. So there's a need for us to censor what is happening to the censorship board. There's a need for us to censor whatever goes out there because of the impact, huge impact it has on media consumers. So the media, this is the time for us to sit up and wake up and shape up a response to the dictates of our circumstances and the dictates of our profession.
Right. Just for our audience, this happened in October last year, and the jury found them guilty and all that. So this is just an update on that story then.
I don't know about, because this 10-year-old one, is this not the earlier story? I don't know about, was it October? You remember
In October last year, a 7-member jury unanimously found the 2 teenagers guilty on 2 counts of conspiracy to commit murder and the substantive charge of murder. Yes, October.
No, so this was
what's it called?
The incident didn't
happen in October. This was
because I remember it was I think
this was the ruling,
2023 or something like that. But it's finality, because it got me going back in my head. You know, this was the one where they found a block, if you remember, abandoned place, uncompleted and all of it. I just wanted to be sure that that was the same
I actually
incident.
only got to know the story in October last year when the verdict. So I didn't follow that one.
And it had come on for quite
okay.
a
Mr.
while.
Money, let's get into your paper.
Daily searchlights, ensuring full security, and the statement by Eric Opoku is banned in this paper. Operation Feed Yourself to be revived. Cannabis can bring Ghana $1 billion annually. This is according to the Chamber of Cannabis Industry.
We have a chamber of cannabis industry?
Interesting.
You know, even before you get into the story, Busumuru Kofi Annan, may he so rest in peace, at a point said something that a lot of people found controversial about this and how we could monetize it. I don't know whether it's Sir Sam Jonah. My mind may be playing tricks on me. But a few people have said a few things about monetizing this. Of course, sometimes we mix up the issues because it's not about cannabis to be. Some of them talk about the medicinal purposes, while some go for all of it, that we should legalize it and tax it. It remains to be seen how we shall address it. But in other jurisdictions, you know, they are monetizing it as well. I don't know. But maybe we should get details from the story and find out what
I know
technically they are.
Some bits of it is legalized, whether it's for medicinal or, bulk. There's something about it that's legalized. Not recreational. Yes, not recreational. From last year. Something's been legalized about that. Yeah.
The detail says the Chamber of Cannabis Industry has urged the government to invest in the cannabis industry as part of its policies to diversify Ghana's cash crops and generate revenue to support the economy. The chamber says Ghana has one of the best climates in the world to cultivate cannabis, and that the country has the potential to generate $1 billion from the $50 billion global cannabis market. And they are quoting Dr. Mark Darkun, Chief Executive Officer, Chamber of Cannabis Industry.
But I don't remember, sometime last year, there was a story about green gold, I think traditional or herbal medicine, and how they say it's untapped and we can make so much money. Maybe this can fall in under the same category, because if it's for medicinal purposes and we can make that much money, I'm all for it.
The cannabinoids and the medicinal properties. You know, with this especially, it's a fine line between getting it right and getting it wrong. It's a very delicate issue, because if you get it wrong, there are the consequences of mental health and so many other things. And even in the use of cannabis, I'm told, even in treating it, how you process it, it will determine whether what you get out of it is fit for this or fit for that. But I think it's a tightrope to walk. And let's not just, there are times where, even if you look at our mining industry, right, where in pursuit of money, we've entered certain deals that over time have not served our purpose. So I would advise caution on that matter, especially with where we were. Look, back then in boarding school, some of what we saw in some areas, if it weren't for God and the upbringing, maybe people would have. I always say that I just never was interested, but I saw things, you understand? So we have to tread cautiously.
Why were you not interested?
Why
were you not interested?
I just wasn't.
Okay.
It's interesting. I have never been one for alcohol or any form of narcotics. I've just never been. That's why I'm saying that, whether by God or upbringing, but I also don't have the circle of whether family or friends who engage in that. So I guess that also came through. Just a quick one on what you said about the media and influence in respect of the killers. Nowadays, it's shocking because you would find in broad daylight, I mean, day TV, shows on juju and money multiplication and all of that. I mean, I've always said that those things should not be allowed. Back in the day, even certain scenes you would never see on television unless it was maybe 10 p.m. and beyond. Today, what we are exposing the young ones to, it's not even a ticking time bomb. It's with us. And they see these things, and the next thing you know, they will want to.
There's a direct correlation
it's the reality
between the moral center of the youth and the exposure. The exposure to such ugly things. So there's a need again, more than ever before, to clamp down on media practitioners, owners who abuse their freedom to inflict all kinds of sins, dangerous sins on the public.
Mr. Bone, I think we should extend it to social media because I know juju men and witches, I don't know how to call them, these women that marine, whatever, they use influencers to advertise their services these days. You go to TikTok and you see a lot of these people there, you know, telling you what they can do for you, bring a white fowl, do this and that. Oh, it's all over the place. So maybe, yes, just feeding into what you're saying, we should extend beyond traditional media and go to social media as well, because that's where the real problem and rot begins. But let's continue.
NDC government supports non-partisan election of MMDCs. Ahmed Ibrahim, the incoming local government minister, is quoted as saying, but I think this contradicts NDC's policy. I thought NDC was in favor of electing DCs on partisan basis. So this came as a surprise to me. And President Mahama consoles Reverend Wingham and family. Reverend Wingham, my General Superintendent of Assemblies of God, has lost a mother, and he happens to be the only son. So we can imagine the weight of this loss. Our
condolences to Reverend Wingham and the family.
Yeah. And daily analyst Kwesi Sapong appointed acting Commissioner General of GAR. Sami Ebuku commends Mahama for appointing young people into government. Mahama did promise that he was going to do just that. And to a very large extent, he's lived up to this promise. Minority slums government over confusion at collation centers. Interesting twist there. Atu Forcing Ayini Jinapo approved as ministers. Randy Abe grabs Cocoa Board.
Yeah.
Randy Abe grabs.
How does that make you feel? What are your thoughts on that?
We saw it coming that Randy was well positioned to grab something big, and he done that just. Was it last week when he said goodbye to Metro TV? Yeah.
Good Morning Ghana.
Good Morning Ghana, and that gave an inclination that something was going to happen, something was going to happen, and he's landed this huge appointment.
So no surprise there.
Yeah, no surprise there at all. And so let's see how he performs. Cocoa Board is one area. Our cocoa production is on the decline, precipitous decline. And then they need to arrest this decline and ensure that we derive maximum revenue from this very important industry. And we
of course, we wish him all the best because, you're saying, it's been a spiral.
Yeah.
And so we would need some good hands on deck and some proper policy positioning.
Yeah.
Even this whole bit about, what's that loan called? Sometimes it's the loan that Cocoa Board would usually...
Syndicated
loan bit, and depending too much on it and all of that. I mean, it was a thought that was supposed to be at a point, a long time ago, a stopgap measure, which then became the norm.
The norm, yeah.
And some have even suggested that we should get past that and be self-sufficient, at least to a large extent, so that even if you need buffers, it's not like the whole thing. Because sometimes government is literally crippled and we are waiting for 1-point-something billion to come in from the cocoa syndicated loan so that we can deal with not even just cocoa-related matters, but shore up the economy. You get it. So if we are able to wean ourselves gradually off this, then it creates space as well for us to be able to do more. But that would also mean maybe increasing the level of production, and it's fallen by quite a bit. But let's see whether we can.
Last year, we were even told that their books were not handsome enough to attract loans from outside to purchase cocoa. They need to put.
Remember even the cocoa bonds, the cocoa bills or cocoa bonds from when the DDEP was happening and all of that. All of those issues, I mean, the dissatisfaction in the system, all of those will have to be dealt with. We wish him the best, of course.
So Randy has a tall mountain to climb, and we wish him all the best. The Accra Times, Agboja weeps over road sector debt as Akufo-Addo Amakwata leave 100 billion CD debt, according to the paper. Speaker Bagbin appeals to continental leaders. Sweetie read that story. Ahmed Ibrahim to sanitize MPDC relationship. MPP minority accuses Totobi Kwachi Gwevulati of vandalization on state properties, threatens to withdraw from their parliamentary duties. And this a quote from the press conference held by the minority.
It's been a while since I heard the name
has come back.
Totobi Kwachi. It's been a long time.
He's debunked what the other allegations, and he's a fine gentleman. So, and everybody has his own name to protect. And it's totally within his right to protect his name, which is so precious.
Thank you.
Well, let me get into the Ghanaian Times. We'll generate massive revenue from property rates, local government minister designates says so. I'm talking about Ahmed Ibrahim and property rates back in the picture. 15-year-old in Kaswameda given 12 months jail term. President Mahama nominates 17 more ministers, 10 appointees to president's office named. On the back page, Agric insurance scheme for farmers in the offing. I'll start with that story. And enact stringent laws to protect public lands. Jaku Manche says so. I feel this should feed into the public officers bill, the whole bit about how public officers engage, right? Because, of course, like we were saying here yesterday, if land in somewhere in cantonments will cost millions, whether cedis or dollars, and I've seen figures in dollars and cedis. Sometimes it's just sometimes it is just the CD equivalent of the dollar price, and someone is buying it for a pittance. It becomes problematic. How do you justify that? Is the person getting it at that because the person is politically exposed? So the story says the government has been called upon to enact stringent laws on the use of public land to protect the interests of investors and the general public from unscrupulous individuals. According to the Jakumanche of the Gardangme area, Ni Anantete I, the administration of public lands in the country lacks the backing of laws to protect the public from unscrupulous investors and lessees. And this had created a lot of litigations. And of course, hopefully we can reduce the number of litigations on land. It creates quite a problematic situation. Then there's the Minister of Food and Agriculture designate, Eric Opoku, hinting that government is to establish an agriculture insurance scheme for farmers in the country. He said under the subsidized insurance program, the farmers would be supported to insure their farms against any eventuality and could also use the insurance to seek financial assistance from the banks, which I find interesting. Recently, I was reading about Warren Buffett saying that insurance is the crown jewel in his entire, business because they have their finger in so many things. Insurance is big business, but it's also about how you go about it. For farmers, you remember the droughts and all of that from last year.
Yeah.
Imagine if some of these farmers had been insured to some extent. So good buffers, but the how is always what I'm concerned about. It's not the why. As for the why, there's the need. The how, it's going to be enacted to ensure that the farmers will be the ultimate beneficiaries. And I'm sure you understand what I mean.
Yes.
Your thoughts on any of these stories?
I think players in this sector, in this industry, should come together to see how best we could push this policy through. Because most often we float all kinds of policies, but pursuing them and making sure that they work is another story altogether. So this time around, there should be some tangible improvement in the lives of our farmers in view of the critical roles they play in feeding the nation and also ensuring that we also have enough for export. So the export revenue is an oxygen, economic oxygen we cannot downplay at this time when expectations are high and our needs are legion. So again, an invitation to everyone in the industry, please, this is a time to come together and pursue this policy to the hills.
All right, a few quick stories and I'll be done here. Obuasi clash, don't use outdated tactics in controlling chaos. Security analyst, I'm talking about Francis Ahovi, a security analyst and executive secretary of the Global Security for Africa Research and Good Governance, who has criticized the use of outdated methods by security forces in managing incidents such as the recent clash in Obuasi. He argued that the military could have employed more modern strategies instead of resorting to retaliation under the guise of self-defense tactics. I mean, I've shared my thoughts on this, and I also have said that you don't engage the military where there's a threat to life and expect them not to engage you back. I am not for the military taking on civilians. No, that's not what I'm saying. But you also cannot, if those were true, engage in that and expect no response. Outgoing Belgian PM on President Trump. Europe should at times show some muscle. That's what he is saying. I'll say Europe has been too quiet. And then there are the latest nominations. Abdul Rashid Pelpo, Labor, Jobs and Employment designate. Omanebo Amwa, Defense designate. Muntaka Mohammed, Interior designate. Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed, Environment, Science, Technology. There's Mr. J. Kenneth Gilbert's Housing, Water Resources, Kofi Adams, Sports and Recreation, and it goes on and on. I can't get through all of them. And there's also our very own Samuel Nate George, Communications, Digital Technology and Innovations. You remember from especially where there was the outage, the fiber issues with our internet facing problems, and his coming to the fore on some of these matters, which has always been his forte, so no surprises in there. If I may go to the Ghanaian publisher so I can just quickly wrap. Bole NDC thugs on rampage over ministerial snub. I don't know about the rampage. Learn from Jinapos, Afenyo Markin to politicians. And the learning from the Jinapos may be, you know, with the Jinapos, no matter which government is in power, they are in power.
Yes.
So if it's
like
Abdullah, they are in power. If it's Abu, they are in power. So whichever way it goes, they are in there. New Boss MD pledges to strengthen company. Those are the stories for me. Any quick thoughts?
I have, well, okay, let's get into your thoughts. I just want to give some headlines from the customer.
And the Jinapo...
Jinapo go, Jinapo come.
Yes, interesting. And they're all good material, two brothers, they're passionate about what they do.
Yeah. And
the former Lance Minister was a huge cog in the wheels of the government of Nanado. And Abu Jinapo is a very good material. He's also passionate about the energy sector. He has what it takes to bring about the needed change. This is an industry which is saddled with all kinds of heat, dirt, and we need to keep the light on.
Yeah.
And, the place is rotting to the core, and they need to reverse the rot and ensure that we have the energy peace of mind Ghana still needs and desires. Let
me just, sweetie, celebrate. I saw the story. Zoom Lion YEA staff returns 20,000 Ghana cedis to owner in Tamale. I think that, you know, in recent times, we've had a few people, an Uber driver here, this person there, returning. That honesty, it sends a signal, and people like him should be celebrated. We need to commend the stories, you know, we need to, because it's not a basket case as far as morality is concerned. It's not. Yeah. It's not.
Right, just to wrap, the custodian, most of the stories we actually are already dealt into it. Let's learn from Jinapo brothers. Afenyo Markin decries decisive politics. And of course, the Zoom Line story is here. The YEA staff returning 20,000 Ghana cedis to the owner. Bole on fire over Mohammed's ministerial snub. And Parliament approves Haruna Idrisu and others. That's for the custodian. And the news center, Mahama told to declare state emergency over Galamsey. Ken Ashigbe is leading that charge there. I agree. Julie Esiam resigns from GRA amid record-breaking achievement. And Dr. Randy Abe appointed, of course, acting CEO Cocoa Board. New Boss MD commits to innovation, collaboration, excellence. That's Apache Awuno. And Bole in flames over Mohammed's ministerial snub. Are they really in flames? We'll get to that story in a bit.
There were many ties in front of President Mohammed's house,
right,
in protest against the sideline, so to speak, of their MP.
But isn't this too early?
It's
because we have what? If we are still going by 60 ministers, we still have about...
Justify what they did.
Yeah.
You have the whole president coming from that town and constituency. So that should be enough. Why on earth should you tie the president down to appoint your MP into...
I think Yusuf Sulemana himself, he's a fine gentleman. I don't think he will support what has been done. But sometimes you have overzealous, and you see, actions like that actually don't augur well for the person they are fighting for.
At all.
Do you get it? Because now, then, if he were going to be, it creates some, is the president being, you know, it rather puts him in a bad stead. And I wish they hadn't.
Oh, gentlemen, that wraps up the news review segment. Afomoni, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure being your midst. A symbol of distinctively distilled journalism, am I right? And a rising star. And the rate of ascendancy is incredible.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Dr. Kwame Asante, but of course, he will join us next week. Thank you, and stay because sports comes up next on the AM show.
Time now to bring you sports here on the AM show with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. President John Dramani Mahama has appointed Kofi Adams as the sports minister designate. The announcement came yesterday following a statement from the presidency. Kofi Adams was rumored to be one person who was leading the race to be appointed as the next sports minister, and that was indeed confirmed. The other person who was contention was Neelante van der Poy, but sources had mentioned to Joy Sports that with the appointment of ministers, there was just to be an appointee from the Volta region, and Kofi Adams was penciled to be appointed the Minister of Sports and Recreation. In fact, Kofi Adams himself, after the report that I published about a few weeks ago, suggesting that he was going to be the sports minister, he described it as fake news. And when it was officially confirmed, he was asked whether he thought he was being considered for the role of sports minister, and he said it came to him as a surprise. Now, with Kofi Adams' appointment as the Minister of Sports and Recreation, the president of African Paralympic Committee, Samson Dean, he has described the role as a difficult role for Kofi Adams, saying that with a tendency of football to swallow the money that is in the sports ministry, he must be very disciplined if he wants to develop all sporting disciplines.
I think that Kofi Adams has been a very young role model for many of the youth in Ghana. He has already granted interview. I've read that he has a special interest in boxing. And as we speak, I can say that we have about 50 Olympic, or let me say, able sports federations in Ghana. We have 22 Paralympic sports federations in Ghana. He is coming to steer the affairs of about 72 federations. And not only that, we currently, as in the country, have to qualify for major events. And he is coming to manage the Ministry of Youth and Sports, the most popular ministry in the Republic of Ghana, because Ghanaians love sports. And Ghanaians will want to see their teams qualifying for the Olympic Games. Ghanaians will want to see their team qualifying for the Paralympic Games. Ghanaians will want to see our federations performing at the Commonwealth Games. And not forgetting, 2027, we are to go for the African Games. So he has a very big task to make sure that he resets the agenda of His Excellency, the vision of His Excellency, the President of the Republic, and make sure that Ghana will be seen as one of the powerhouses in Africa.
Well, I mean, let's talk briefly about the vetting that will come on, I'm sure, somewhere next week. Is there any particular area of your sector that you'll be hoping to get some clarity on during the vetting? Hopefully, some of the members of parliament will be listening and might get, you know, that clarity for you.
Yeah, I think that he's new to the sports ministry. What some of us will be doing currently is to prepare him for the vetting by giving him briefing as to the state of the sports in the country by supporting his vetting. I don't think that it will be fair for me to be so critical or try to put a lot of headache to him at this moment. But what we can do is to give him a clear briefing, which we already did the transition by short reports for the transition team. And we shall take him through 1 or 2 or 3 details of what needs to be done when he assumes office. We are there to support him. I, in particular, will be a major stakeholder to make sure that I support him 100% for him to succeed. And for that matter, I think the vetting, as I have watched so far in the last days, is a clear indication of the person must have a clear idea of what the office is going to occupy. We are supposed, as a stakeholder, I am supposed to assist, I'm supposed to help him to prepare for this vetting.
Welcome back on the AM show, and we kickstart on the business front. Now, as the country seeks to drive entrepreneurship and improve the capacity of small and medium businesses, technology remains crucial. Ask, how can technology be leveraged to achieve this? Well, joining me now, I have my 2 guests, Dr. Nanama Ening Opondia. Yes, I decided to go the full haul. She's a development practitioner. We also have Lawrence Champong, the Vice President of the Business Advisory Services Providers Association of Ghana. Thank you, lady and gentlemen, for joining the conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Why this at this point in the year? You know, the last time I had a conversation on business and everything, I'm talking about AB and David and the crystal ball. But I've noticed a certain trend when it comes to business. Why this time? I'll start with you, Lawrence.
Well, this time is crucial. Every business or serious business person or business entity would want to get it right from the
start.
Okay,
right.
So at the beginning of each year, all businesses try to put their visions together, try to do their projections and everything. So this time is quite crucial. That's why we have chosen this time to come to you.
If you look at the Ghanaian entrepreneurship ecosystem, what do you see in terms of the adoption of technology, especially in respect of SMEs?
Sure. You know, SMEs form a chunk of the businesses in Ghana. In fact, we have this mantra that the private sector is
the engine of growth. Yeah.
We say that. And if you look at the private sector, SMEs form a chunk. Unfortunately, these are the entities who usually struggle.
Yeah.
All right. So you see that they are trying to embrace technology to help them grow. All right. But there are serious hurdles. Okay. You and I know the environment in which we are.
Yeah.
First of all, relatively, the cost of getting technology into your business is relatively high in this part of the world. Look at the environment also again, and realize that even the digital space or the digital infrastructure is not enough.
Right.
So they are not able to cross some of these hurdles. And of course, at times, it's difficult to get technology experts in these SMEs. Either they can afford the services or people just don't have the capacity in-house.
Right.
So it makes it difficult to do so, but they are gradually embracing it. And that's why groups like us, BASPAC, which is Business Advisory Service Providers Association of Ghana, come in. We help them to embrace this technology. We first of all empower our members. You know, it's made up of a group of business development service providers. Right. We empower them, and then they also empower these SMEs to sort of embrace the technology.
I see. So it becomes a bit of support to be supported, right? Exactly. So like a trainer of trainer situation. But let me come to you, Doc. So, Dr. Opondia, the SME space is one that if we capitalized on would bode very well for our economy. But like Lawrence mentioned, they get very little support, entrepreneurs as well. How crucial is it then, these business support services, especially for those categories?
Because most of the time, people have ideas, they have great ideas, but that doesn't mean they know how to execute them. Right. And they don't, sometimes also, they don't know how the business ecology works. So how do you register, how do you file your taxes, how do you do your reporting, how do you keep your records, and all of those things. So it's very crucial, like he said, from the onset. Even if you are small, you need to file your taxes, you need to register. You
need to learn the ropes of how to get it done. Yes. So that when you get big, it doesn't become a problem.
Exactly, and that's the problem. Sometimes when they are small, they ignore a lot of these things, and then when they start getting bigger, they have issues. So that's why it's crucial to have these business development services. People who can help you with the registration, to do your accounting. And one of the crucial things he mentioned was embracing technology. Right. Technology most of the time requires funds. Right. And so it's important for us to make sure that we support them with these critical services so that they can do the business right from the beginning when they start,
So tech is crucial, but it comes with a financial composite or component. Yeah. But when you look at the agri value chain, for example, those in the value chain, how do you feel they can benefit from some of these services, especially tech? Now we hear the Minister Designate for Agri talking about insurance for farmers, which is a good step. I have said that is the how in the operationalization. But from where you sit, how can the agri sector value chain benefit from this?
So basically, if you look at the value chain, one of the key, maybe should I say the key words when you mention value chain is linkages. Right. So how do you link backwards? How do you link forwards? So if you are a producer, your input suppliers, the logistics, your marketing, and all the funding aspect. So when we look at technology, the BASPAC, for example, we have a platform which is called the BDS GH app. What this app does is it brings together service providers, the BDS providers, as well as the SMEs, small and medium enterprises. So it's kind of like an Uber in the business development service. So who are those looking for services? Who are those providing services? Are you looking for accounting services? Are you looking for grants or loans? Are you looking for helping you to register your business? So it kind of brings these two parties together on a platform, on our platform, and then it's easier for you to search and find the services that you're looking for. So that's how we are leveraging technology in our association, and also to help the SME business environment in Ghana.
I think I have a tagline for you. We get you to your business destination.
Exactly.
BASPAC, we get you to your business destination. Yeah. But speaking of which, all of this, what role then do you feel, especially as BASPAC is that entity? How can private support play a role in developing a robust entrepreneurial ecosystem generally? Because what you're trying to do is meant to create a bigger scenario. How can we do that, Lawrence?
Well, sure. So that is fundamental, and that is also, I don't know if I should say, but non-negotiable. It's almost imperative to have business support services for an entrepreneurial ecosystem like ours, especially since we've started talking about 24-hour economy. Right. If we want the economy to really boom, then we can't joke with that. Most of the projects we are looking at, most of the projects we are thinking about will require maybe feasibility studies. Some of the, they will also require, let's say, business plans, strategic documents, and all that. And most of these, our members, that's business development service providers, provide such services. So we need to take business support service groups like BASPAC very seriously. In fact, apart from that, we also provide a platform where like-minded people come together. She spoke about our app, which is like a digital Uber. Okay. So what does it do? We make sure all the service providers, the BDS providers, are on that platform. So if you're an SME and you want a very tailored solution, you are not going to look for any consultant to come and sit.
You don't need to go too far.
Exactly.
One-stop shop.
Just one-stop shop. You just log onto it, and then you have access to verified BDS providers. Okay. What you have the chance to do on that platform, for instance, is to rate any service provider who you encounter, just like you rate your Uber. Right. So if you rate them and they have good services, then they have repeated businesses. Because of that, there's a healthy competition amongst the providers.
I see.
And so they try to give the best of services, because who wants...
no one wants a negative rating.
Exactly. Right. So we do that. And then one also key thing is we sort of collaborate with entities like development partners, because it's a group. We are able to leverage on it, and we collaborate with. This app was even done in collaboration with GTI, which is Ghana Trade and Investment Activity. It's an activity under USAID. So they sponsored us actually. And so we deal with groups like MFA, Mobilizing Finance for Agriculture, and all these groups, so that the members, the business development service providers, are able to give more services or better services, quality services to the SMEs. And your guess is as good as mine. They grow, more profits, and
jobs will be created.
Jobs.
Yeah. Right.
Jobs.
I see.
So the 24-hour economy.
Let me add to what he's saying. In fact, in the past, we've been able to mobilize over $100 million for about 200 SMEs in the past. So
over $100 million?
Yes.
Within what time frame?
Within BASPAC, since we were, I think in 2018, we came into being in 2018 for small firms. We've been able to do about 100 million.
That's huge.
This has been a mix of funds. We have grants because, like he said, we work with donor partners who give grants.
Right.
So we have a mix. We have grants, we have loans, we have equity. So we have different types of finance.
So some people buying stock, getting shares.
Yes.
Others it's a grant, others loans.
Loans.
That's interesting.
And we try to also look at loans that don't have cut-throat interest rate. As well.
I see, and that's something that is critical to business in Ghana, because a lot of them are complaining about the rates at which if they went to our banks, they would get these loans. But interesting work that you're doing at BASPAC. Final words? I'll start with you, Doc.
I'll say that we should all log on BDSGH app. And I'll
Please slow down on that so that they can get it well.
Log on to the app. It's BDSGH.
BDSGH.
Yes. Okay. So log on so that whether you are an SME or you are a BDS provider, this year we are targeting about 5,000 SMEs and 1,000 BDS providers on the app. I would also like to say thank you to our partners, Ghana Chamber of Commerce, the Ministry of Agric, and the Ministry of Trade. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Lawrence, you have the final of the final words. And maybe if there's anywhere else that people can connect with you, are there any phone numbers?
Yes, we have, I think you can get us on our website.
Okay.
BASPAC.org.
So www.baspag, that is BASPAG, right?
Yeah,
.org.
Yes.
All right.
Otherwise, we can put one phone number out there if somebody wants to get in touch.
You can go ahead.
Yes, okay. So it's 0244 409715. 0244409715. Sure. So, well, I think Doug has finalized everything.
Right.
But all I would say is, please, let's take advantage of the services of business development because it is crucial. We need it if we want to develop well, or if we want to live sport. We have to try and get the services of business development service providers. It is very crucial. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a small business, of course, you want to be big business someday, but it comes in stages. Monkeys walk by sizes. So if you're starting off, BASPAG is the way to go. Come along and they'll help you get there. Those who joined us for this conversation, we had Dr. Nanama Ening Opondua. She's a development practitioner. And we also had Lawrence Echampong. He's Vice President, Business Advisory Services Providers Association of Ghana. They joined us. Thank you once more for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so stick and stay with us. We'll be back with more action on the AM show. We'll be right back.
We can move now, right?
Usually you have to wait a little for the thing to go. I see both of
Mr. Speaker, I shall refer my colleagues to Article 35, 5B. The state shall take appropriate measures to achieve reasonable regional and gender balance in recruitment and appointment of public officers. The state and its government is headed by the president, who alone has executive powers of state. If you read Article 58 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, for the avoidance of doubt, Article 58 of the Constitution provides, the executive authority of Ghana shall vest in the President and shall be exercised in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution. So I agree with you that Mr. President has the prerogative, but that prerogative, as you again said, must be exercised within the ambit of the Constitution, and that is provided for by Article 35, 6B. Mr. Speaker, my observation is well founded. So far, we have had chief executive appointments. These chief executive appointments to state-owned institutions have no regional balance. These appointments have no regional balance. The appointment to ministerial office thus far cannot be said to have a fair representation. I've already argued the gender imbalance. I've already made that argument. I will not go there. We have Western region. We have Central region. We have Greater Accra, which is predominantly made up of Gans and Adangwes. We have Volta region, generally made up of Evers and Loss. How many of them are being appointed into this government? We have Oti region. How many from Oti are getting the opportunity? Mr. Speaker, if you go to Upper West, Northeast, Mr. Speaker, in the Northeast, they are predominantly Mamprushis. Yes, it's a fact. Yes, it's a fact. Are we seeing a representation of them? This is a constitutional requirement. It is in the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, all we are saying is, Mr. President, check the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, maybe I should walk my colleagues through memory lane. When President Kufuor, listen, please, colleagues, we are not just talking. When President Kufuor was in office, I recall, was it his first term or second term? Mr. Speaker, in his first term, it got to a point during the appointment, somebody asked President Kufuor about this same matter, and he said, oh, he's made an appointment to Upper East regional minister. He said, no, in your cabinet, at least there should be a representation from all corners of the country. Upper West, very well, thank you. Mr. President, at the time, therefore, make sure that somebody was appointed to fill a Minister of State.
Kasim Kasanga.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Professor Kasim Kasanga therefore came in to fill the lands ministry. Our friends should listen. You have come into government. Any useful comment you oppose, you are behaving as though you are in opposition. Please listen to us. At least when you first made that first mistake of letting a secretary to president write to us, and we corrected. Now today, Mr. President himself is writing. Mr. Speaker, I would plead with my colleagues that when we make comments, they should convey to the presidency. Honorable Defiameko is now telling us that Mr. President has up to 7,000 appointees to appoint. He says Mr. President has 7,000. Really? So it is no more 60 appointees. Now you are saying, you are telling.
Show, and of course we set the tone with those encounters in Parliament on the back of the nominations and the appointments we've seen. And we'll be getting into the salient matters right here in the studio. But let me first walk you through what exactly has been happening so far. When you look at the regional ministers, as you can see in this slide, you would realize that the nominees are plenty. You'd have from the first slide Ali Adolf John for the Northern Region, John Kwejo Japong, Oti James Gunu Volta, Mrs. Ajay Awate. You would also have, that's Eastern, Ibrahim Tia Northeast, Dr. Mwakohene Ashanti, Akamugri Atanga in the Upper East, and Charity Gardner in Ahafo. If you go to the next set, of course, there are 16 of those regions. Salisu Biauribe in Savannah, Lindo, Klu, Greater Accra, Wobed Brentum, Western North, Eduanoma Ochre, Central, Joseph Nelson, Western. For Upper West, you have Pozwing Charles Luanga, and then Joseph Akwabwa in Bono, and Francis Owusu, Bono East. That's the tail of the tape for the regional situation. But if we move from there, we would like you to look at some of the appointments, some of the nominations that have come to the fore. These three have already been cleared. Dr. Kasilato Forson, Ministry of Finance, John Abdullahi Jinapo, Energy and Green Transition, and then Dominic Ayene, Attorney General and Minister of Justice. They've sailed through, but there's another, there are so many more to go. They've also seen Parliament's Appointments Committee, Kwame Governs Abuja for Roads and Highways, Eric Opoku for Agric, and of course, you also have Agnes Namumulate for the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. And if you move on from there, someone I know who was also pivoting for her seat, her constituency, and now she gets the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture. Emilia Arthur, Member of Parliament. Ablaji Fagomashi, of course, we know, heading for the Ministry of Tourism, and then we have Georgia Paria Ado. Interesting development, Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment. There's still more. Haruna Idrisu, of course, slated for education. He's had his turn before the committee. Then there is Ahmed Ibrahim, Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. And then Elizabeth Ofosu-Ajari, MP, Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, fused together. There's still more. Dr. Omanibuama for Defense. You have Sam Nate George for Communications, Digital Technology and Innovations. And then the Honorable Emmanuel Amakofibua as well for Lands and Natural Resources. He would be taking over from where Abu Jinapo left off. And then Kofi Adams for Sports. Recently, my colleague Muftau Nabila Abdullahi was asking him whether he was headed there. Well, he is there. Sports and Recreation, Abdul Rashid Pelpo is back. Ministry of Labor, Jobs and Employment. And then we have Kwabena Mensah Akando. How many times do you not hear us engage him on health-related matters? Well, he's headed to the Health Ministry. And then Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, he's been with Trade and Industry as a Deputy Minister. Now he heads to the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology. Joseph Bukari Nikbe is Ministry of Transport, and then that's the ministry he's headed to. Muntaka Mubarak, he is headed to the Ministry of Interior. And that's how it's looking. And then, interesting times, of course, many knew that he would be heading to this ministry. Sam Okujeto-Ablakwa, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Ajay Kenneth Gilbert, Ministry of Works, Housing and Water Resources. And then Emmanuel Ajekum, Minister of State in charge of Special Initiatives, right? And then, in terms of state government communications, Felix Kwachiofosu, he's been speaking for the transition team. He's been speaking for the president, and that's his role. And then Isifu Seidu, Minister of State, Climate Change and Sustainability. These, so far, are the ones we know. But we're going to give you some context, very briefly, in terms of the claims of Afenyo Markin versus the reality. If you look at it, the total ministers to be appointed, the promise was 60. All things being equal. Next slide. Now, if you go to the next slide, you would realize that of the 60, 42 appointments have been made so far, which means that all things being equal would have a deficit of 18 as of today. Next slide. Now, of the 42 appointments made, those for regional ministers are 16. We have 16 regions. And then 26 are ministers of state. Now, we'll give you a further breakdown in the next slide because if you look at our analysis, at least 31 ministers are expected to come from Parliament, all things being equal. That's our analysis, 31 of them. And there's a further breakdown on that number of 31 because if you look at the ministerial MPs so far, so MPs being put forward as ministers, you would have 24 out of the 42 appointments made so far. Again, more context. Now, the ministerial MPs remaining, per the 31, you remember the value, so 24 plus 7 would give you that 31. At least 7 are yet to be appointed from our analysis. If you go to the next slide. Now, what does the Constitution say? Article 78 has something interesting. It says, 1, ministers of state shall be appointed by the president with the prior approval of Parliament from among members of Parliament. From among members of Parliament, or persons qualified to be elected as members of Parliament, which means those people may not have to be members of Parliament, and except that the majority of ministers of state shall be appointed from among members of Parliament. So it says the president has leeway, but the majority of them must come from Parliament. Next slide. Now, if you look at the gender balance test, that has also come into question. This morning, Afil was referencing that. Of the 42 appointments made so far, the male ministers are 35. The female ministers are 7. That's 16+%. You can round it off to 17% for females and 83+%. This decimal 0.3 cannot be rolled over. And that is for male ministers. And sweetie, that is the question that has come to the fore because we've been talking about gender balance, not just regional balance, gender balance. And that's the tail of the tape.
Party's interpretation of gender balance is because in order for you to make a case on whether or not these appointments we are seeing so far disproportionately favor one party or one gender over the other. I need to understand what the interpretation of those keywords are. But of course, we'll get into the conversation right here in the studio. Joining us in the studio for this conversation this morning is the former Majority Chief Whip, and he's in the studio with us. That is Matthew Nyindam, and he's Member of Parliament for Pandai. And we also have joining us via Zoom, Yusuf Sulemana, and he's Member of Parliament for Bole-Bamboi. And we get there in terms of what they're doing in his hometown and the contest of whether or not he's been sidelined or not. But let's start from here in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you, my dear. How are you?
I'm fantastic. What is your understanding or interpretation of gender balance? Benjamin gave us what the Constitution said. Yeah. What is your interpretation of gender balance, regional balance? And then we can start from there.
You see, thank you very well. And very well, too. For the first time coming here, I've been watching you. Good morning to the people of Pandai. And then if you ask gender balance, what is balance? Balance is to make sure that at least you weigh in the two. It should be closer, if not equal. Mm-hmm. Is that not the case? Then we say it's balance, 50-50. Then complete balance. Are we together with that?
I'm following you. I want you to land on your thoughts.
Because we are all advocating that let's get the female, the male to be equal. That's the advocacy. That's what all of you have been preaching, especially our female ones. Mm-hmm. The affirmative action. You've pushed it so hard. And we think that looking at the appointment so far, it's not been balanced. If you look at the figures just projected by my good friend, 16. If you want to run it, 17. Against 83 or 84. We think that, obviously, it is not balanced.
Okay. So were you expecting 50-50 for total balance, like you said?
Yes, that's total balance will be 50-50.
That's what your expectation, based on the provision in the Constitution?
Yes, that's what the Constitution says. Okay. That there must be gender balance.
Right.
There must be regional balance. Mm-hmm. There must be even race balance. All those things are not written there for nothing. They have reasons why they are supposed to be there. But let's focus on the female-male aspect, the gender aspect. Because if you want to go to the nitty-gritties of the race, the tribes, and other things, I don't think that any government can totally fulfill that.
Okay.
I don't think, because the tribal differences in this country are so large.
You just have higher expectations of this administration. Yes. Is that it?
Sorry?
You just said that no government can actually,
when it comes to the tribal nitty-gritties, it's a bit difficult to some extent. Because if you take the northern region alone and want to tell you the number of tribes that forms the northern region, if you want to give everybody ministerial appointment, you end up exhausting even the 60 without going to any other region. So that one we can pardon to some extent. But when it comes to gender, and if you take this parliament, the 9th parliament, the number of women in that house, we don't see why out of the 42, only 7 have been given appointments.
Right.
I think that is not the best.
Yeah, Ben will come in shortly, maybe take us to Zoom. But is this concern only for the ministerial appointments? Because when you look at the other nominations to the SOEs, the number of women we have in Parliament, we're not doing that bad, are we?
Currently, we don't see that.
So your concern is just for the ministerial appointments?
You see, we should not always try to bring women as the second face. If you listen to the leader, our problem is that we have very competent women in the house. Why will you want them to be deputies? Why will you want to do that? Zinato is there. She's not been given anything. Why? Aji Aladi, she's a 5th timer or 4th timer, 5th timer in Parliament. Madam from Karachi West, Madam Helen Ajwa Ntoso, very experienced woman. There are other women. Why are you keeping them in Parliament? Why will you want to use them for?
Now, the question is, these names and the other women in Parliament, have they put themselves forward? Have they...
They have won their seats consistently.
Yes, but you're talking about
it's a different, even the transitional team. Even the transitional team, she was part of it.
Different business in Parliament and what you do differently as a minister. I'm asking whether or not they put themselves forward, and you're speaking based on the competencies of these women.
So are you doubting?
I'm not doubting. I'm probing what you're saying.
We are telling you that we know the women, we are with them. They are capable. Okay. They are even more than capable.
Okay.
Because you know Zinato very well. Even as part of their transitional team, she was part of them. She was with them. If you take Adjoa Helen Ntoso, she's been a minister before, a very distinguished woman. Why will you keep her? These names I'm mentioning, you cannot push them to become deputy minister.
Right. Benjamin.
You cannot do that.
Well, it's interesting. I'll come to you in a bit, but let me also get Yusuf Sulemana. The female-male ratio has always posed problems. But let me get to Yusuf Sulemana. He's Member of Parliament for Bole-Bamboi, to be specific. Mr. Sulemana, a very good morning to you, sir. Yusuf Sulemana, if you can hear me, good morning, sir.
Good morning, my brother. How are you?
I am well. It's good to have you join the conversation this morning.
Sure.
We've got some information filtering through, seen some videos in respect of some disgruntled members of the National Democratic Congress who are not happy that though the ministerial nominees or appointments have not completely been made, they feel you are being sidelined, on the back of which they have expressed very stiff disapproval. What is your take in terms of the reaction of your constituents?
First of all, let me greet our listeners and to also greet yourself and those in the studio. For me, it was a very big shame when I saw that act yesterday. I have not been sidelined in any way. I am closely in touch with the big man. And for me, His Excellency, the President, is worth 60 minutes. And this is a man who is coming from Bole. What are we looking for a minister to do with? We are looking for a minister, we are looking for an appointment in order that we can bring development to our people. So if you have the President himself coming from that area, what is a minister, what would be a minister's duty in this equation? Okay? So for me,
is that to say, I get the bit about the shame, but is that to say, if you were appointed, you were given an appointment, you would not take it?
If the man says that, you see, this is where I want you to be. If His Excellency John Dramani Mahama tells me that tomorrow morning, I want you to start coming to my house every morning to clean my shoes, so that at the end of the day, I'll be comfortable and deliver, I will do it. All I'm saying is that it was a shame that they went into that angle, and that again, for me, we have had enough. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is from Bole, he's the president, and God has been nice to us. He has blessed us with a man. Let us allow him some peace, let us allow him some space to establish his government. I spoke with him through text last night, and I have access to him. So I was a bit surprised when I saw the youth burning ties and all of that. That is not my nature. I have maintained that I will not take anybody to go and lobby for me. He knows me very well. He will call me and send me as and when he wants me to do something for him. And already we have started working to bring development in the area. So I have appealed to them to be calm, and that, like you said, he has not even finished with his appointment. If he deems it fit to say that, Yusuf, go and serve here, why not? And so I think that my people should be calmed. So far, the appointments have been very, very fair. Take Upper West, for instance. They delivered 11 over 11. He's given them 2 ministers, a regional minister and a cabinet minister. Go to Upper East, they have 2 ministers. They have delivered 15 over 15 seats. And so everywhere, about 8 regions that did very well have been given 2 ministers, a regional minister and a substantive minister. And that is the same thing that he has done for Savannah region. We have a minister of energy, a very strategic ministry, and we have our regional minister. So I think that our people should be calmed. I think that they should give our brother space to establish his government and deliver. Indeed, Ghanaians have been very, very nice to us, the people of Bole, for bringing him back to come and serve Ghana. And so, once again, My appeal is that they should stop misconducting themselves, and that we should give respect to our brother and our traditional rulers over there, and that we should exercise patience to see the development that we expect to get in that area.
It stands to reason then that you did not support this action. It was done on your blind side. Have you interacted with your constituents since these incidents to express your sentiments to them?
Yes, so yesterday it was a journalist, the Inkling FM manager, who drew my attention to that act. So quickly I called the constituency chairman, I called the police, and I also called my elder brother, two of my elder brothers, to ensure that they stop the guys from misbehaving. And that was how it was calmed. And then again, I issued a statement condemning the act and appealing to them. And I also went on radio around that same time to appeal to them and to tell them that we have no moral right whatsoever to involve ourselves in that act, and that God has been nice to us for giving us a president. This was a man who came as a vice president. He became a president, went into opposition. It has never happened. God has brought him back. We should be proud of him, and we should be thanking God on a daily basis rather than involving ourselves in this unfortunate act. And so I've spoken to them. In fact, if I didn't intervene, even Bamboi area, they were going to also misconduct themselves. So I stopped them, and the whole of last night, I didn't sleep. I was in touch with the people to ensure that the scam there, that embarrassment, that disgrace must stop. And so we are good to go. I can assure you that things have returned to normalcy, and we are on good course.
I just have this bit for you before Sweetie comes in. You do mention that you interacted with the president via text. Was he disappointed in the actions? Because he's been MP there before. Was he disappointed in the constituents and how they had acted?
He hasn't shown that. I just narrated to him what happened and then also apologized to him because they did that in my name, even though I'm not aware of it. And so as a well-trained brother of his, I thought that I should apologize to him. And he acknowledged my apology. And even this morning as I speak to you, after this interview, I'm heading towards his house. Okay, so there's no any problem. Let me use this opportunity to appeal to all NDC youth across the country that we cannot afford to disappoint Ghanaians, and that we need to give the president and his appointees the maximum cooperation so that they will deliver. And once they deliver, I can assure you, 2028, we can win with ease. And so my appeal to them is that let us not be self-centered. Let us look at the generality of the people's interests, and that we should give our president and the appointees the needed support so that they will make us proud.
Right. Sir, I appreciate your condemnation of these actions, but I'm curious to know, if you were to make an educated guess, where do you think this is coming from? This is about you. Why do you think this is happening?
Now, the truth of the matter is that our youth perhaps thought that if I were put in a very, let's say, strategic place, I will be able to help them. But what they have forgotten is that where I am today, very close to the president, we don't need me as a minister to be able to solve their problems. I have heard some of them saying that if I don't get a position, they don't get the opportunity to be recruited into the forces, they don't get the opportunity to get jobs. And I have told them that even when I was not MP and the president was the president of this nation, he gave me an opportunity. And many of them who were qualified got into so many jobs. And so now that I'm an MP and he's a president, I'm very closer to him than I was, they shouldn't worry. That's the assurance I've given them, that they have no cause to complain. Once the president is alive and I'm around him, their concerns will be met.
Thank you, sir. Please hold for us. Let's get back into the studio and continue the conversation. Let's give you some time to reflect.
If I can just make a quick comment with respect to the issue of gender balance and the position of my colleague. I think he's gotten it wrong. When we talk of gender balance in this case, you must also look at the totality of the people that we are talking about. You have a parliament where women in that parliament are far, far less than men. And so if you are talking about balance, it is not for you to just say that women in parliament should be equal to men in parliament in terms of the sharing of the positions. That is wrong. In any case, even the affirmative action bill that we passed recently, they are pushing for 30%. It's a gradual process. So if President Mahama at the end of the day is able to make 30% of his appointees go to women, he would have satisfied that issue of gender balance. And so far, so good. The people that he has appointed, women he has appointed, I can tell you that he's on course. And we should not also look at the appointment coming from only parliament. We should look at the total appointment that he would have been made at the end of the day. If we do that and he's not getting the 30%, then you can have a right to question him. As it stands now, he's on course. If you look at the ratio of men and women in parliament, where he is now is right. And let us put this in mind.
Thank you, sir. So, reflections on
yes,
all that.
Yes,
so
but I'm not wrong.
Like you have different interpretation.
No,
of balance.
I don't. It's the same thing. I don't have a different interpretation because if I'm talking about 50-50, it simply doesn't mean that I'm talking about the total.
Right.
That's not what I mean. If we have 30 men, okay, and we have 3 women or 4 women, you are taking 50% of that and taking 50% of this.
Right.
So I'm not talking about. I equally have those numbers in mind.
Right.
So he should not think that I'm just boxing everything together. So if the total number of women we have in parliament now, he should go and check and let's know the total number of women in parliament. And the appointment done so far, does it reflect the same done for men? That's where the debate is.
He also made a point about looking at the whole, the total number of appointments and nominations made and the women in there, not just, seclude only this to the ministerial appointments.
I'm not discounting that.
Right.
I'm just telling you that so far the appointment that has been done has to do with ministerial appointments. Okay? The appointment that he's talking outside parliament, it's not women alone that are going to be appointed. They are going to appoint men as well. So if you are getting parliament right, then we know that when you go outside parliament, you get it right. But for now, the percentages we are seeing, 83% against 16%, is low. So you should not try and say that when they go outside parliament, they will try to make that 30% or 40%. We want to see that reflect in parliament. Because if the women were not in parliament, we wouldn't complain. We would not have been talking, but they are there.
Honorable Nyendam, let's look at it from this angle.
Yes.
If you look at it, there are 40 female MPs.
Yes,
right?
their side.
40 female MPs.
Yes.
I don't think it's just their side.
I want us to even look at their side only.
No, that's the point. That's where I'm getting to.
Thank you.
There are 40 female MPs.
Yes.
In Parliament, right? Which means that there have been some diminishing returns from both sides.
Yes.
If you look at the 40, not all those 40 are from the NDC side. So even if you gave their side, I still have to check the figures to find out how many female NDC MPs are female. But even if you gave them 25, let's say 25, and I stand corrected on that because I'm still checking on that.
No problem.
If you gave them 25 and you do the mathematics, that is 8 divided by 25 times 100, you would get some 32%. Do you get it?
That's if you are using this 25.
So the point is, there is room for improvement, but especially as you have a case where there are lower numbers of women in parliament, and this president has also decided to lower the numbers of ministers. Because mind you, once the ministerial appointments come down, it means fewer men and fewer women already will be getting in. When you look at those dynamics, does it still look as bad as you paint the picture?
You see, we are all trying to achieve something in the shortest possible time, where our women will be ranking with men. Okay, so you take a percentage of 83, then you take a percentage of 16.
Right.
Obviously, we have question marks. And that's why we are probing. We all know there is room for improvement. But what we are saying is that it should not always be that only deputy ministers that will come in to push all the ladies to go and second the men. That's our challenge. We are not saying that the appointment is done is bad, but we are just saying that recognition must be given to the female ones, and then gender and all other things that we've mentioned about. Now, if you listen to my good friend, it's okay to speak the way he has spoken. You asked a question, I thought that he should have answered, what would trigger this? It is the promises that they promised him and his constituents. The campaign.
How did you know about
my brother, they were sending him to Lance. They went and removed him. They were sending him to trade. They removed him. You see, all this information, it gets down to the grassroots.
I'm asking how.
Oh, but we are all in parliament.
This information?
Oh, we are all in parliament. You hear even more. This information is available to you people. Yeah, that you cannot say it. And they've been unfair to him.
Hey,
I'm telling you, my brother has been the ranking member for trade 4 years.
Okay.
He's fought for the party. Okay. And his constituents have been assured. They went there and told them that, look, Yusuf is going to be a minister if we will win. Only for him now to say John is coming from there. We all know he's coming from
Ben.
We all know.
I think
nobody can take that. Oh wait, Yusuf, let me speak for you. You cannot speak on this matter. You cannot speak.
Yusuf, hold for me. Hold for me. Yusuf, Sulemana, hold for me. Hold for me.
Look, Yusuf cannot speak. I have to speak for him.
Let me correct this.
No, I have you to correct, but just let Matthew Nyindam land.
Yusuf
is lying. So I have to put it to him that he's lying.
Don't worry. You let me finish the lies.
Let him finish.
Let me finish the lies.
We'll come to you in a bit, please.
You let me finish the lies. You see, they've been unfair to Yusuf. He's my friend. They've been unfair to him. And they constantly, look, you know that 4 years ago, 4 years of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama.
Right.
You know that the people even in Bole accused him that he did not help them. Are you getting what I'm saying? And then it's not easy for your grassroots to assess the president like the way they will assess you, the MP. It's a fact. The youth in Bole can assess Yusuf easier. And their problems can be solved easier than going to John Dramani Mahama's office. It's not possible. So the youth have a legitimate concern, but I condemn the violent aspects.
Okay.
And for the violent, I don't endorse it. They could make their case without necessarily destroying the property in Bole. But the cry is a legitimate cry. And I like the angle Yusuf is coming because there is no way Yusuf will come out publicly to tell the president that he's not been treated fairly, or he will tell the party he's not been treated fairly. So he should leave that one for us to help him, so that when in the next time when there's going to be reshuffling, they can quickly put him there for him to go and help his constituents.
Well, there are still some appointments.
Oh, Yusuf is above deputy. They won't give. He won't go for. He will settle for deputy. He will not. If he settles for deputy, it's not going to help him. It's my friend.
The way you're speaking on authority. So perhaps it's a good time to usher in.
Yes, he should not settle for deputy. It will help him.
Sulemana, so what were you going to say?
I think that my colleagues seated there just took advantage to do politics.
I'm not a bad boy.
If we ask you to adduce evidence of anybody telling my constituents that I was going to be made a minister, will you be able to do that? So an honorable person like you, I would suggest that you withdraw that and apologize to me. Because for me, you do not have evidence to suggest that this was said to my people. That's the first issue. The second issue is that you are talking about accessibility. I just told you, I have access to the president. And so if they have access to me, and I can have access to the president, their problems will be resolved. So I don't need to be a minister to be able to solve their problems. And that was the communication I sent to them yesterday. Let me also put on record that the issue of Bole people not happy with John Mahama's performance, go and look at the constituency very well and compare the constituency with other constituencies in the north. In terms of electrification, Bole is well connected. Water, we have done so much in that area. I'm talking about His Excellency John Dramani Mahama when he was the president and an MP. When it comes to road network, a lot was done. So don't sit here and want to take advantage of the misconduct of my boys or our people to, as it were, create any confusion. I can assure you that the people of Bole are fine. The people...
Oh.
Well, we seem to have lost Yusuf Sulemana. We'll try to reconnect with him. But I found something interesting. If you recall from 2019, in fact, at the time, the cabinet ministers of former President Akufo-Addo, only 5 were female. And it wasn't a horrible number, but people felt he could have done better at the time. And to be fair to him, though it didn't meet the 30% he had touted, it was around 26% in terms of cabinet ministerial positions. In 2020, there were 8 females. All I'm trying to say is that a lot more work must be done across the board, and like you said, progressively, so that we can get to the point where we have more females. The good thing is, apart from Parliament, where the purported majority must come from, constitution-wise, the president is free to appoint outside of Parliament as well to complement the numbers. But what do you think over time, since you are in Parliament, what do you think, both sides, you can do to make this even more effective? Affirmative action, it's on the cards. What do we do?
It's a conscious effort.
Conscious effort in the day, I can't bro.
Oh, no, but that's the only
From Rawlings to Kufua, we've been talking about conscious effort, and it hasn't really materialized in the numbers.
You see, like you rightly looked at the Constitution, majority must be appointed from Parliament. Okay, and that's why we are making this case and making it strongly. For the first time, although the numbers, the female numbers in Parliament has dropped, but personally, when I entered the 9th Parliament and I saw the number of women from the NDC side, I was impressed. Because a lot of women on the NDC side came to Parliament. I'm highly, highly impressed. So it is a booster. If more of them get opportunity to become ministers, other women who are out there, who also struggle. Women in politics is a very difficult thing. It's a very, very... So if you get women putting up themselves to contest and win elections, such women must be honored. Okay? But if at the end of the day, you go to Parliament and our women are not there, that one, you can make a case. But if the women are there, why can't you appoint them? But it's conscious effort. Women must try as much as possible to put themselves up and win more seats. You see that my friend Yusuf was trying to use the male-female number. Because the more we get female...
But you cannot run away from that as well.
I'm not running. I agreed with him. But I was just looking at, if they are this and they are getting 88%, the female are this, they should also be getting equal high percentages. That's what I'm saying. But to get women in Parliament is the very important thing. Advocacy. Gender must push. Female, you know, if you take the population census, it tells you the women are more than men. So if a woman put herself up to contest for an election, the female one should also support. Okay. Because normally, women are more sensitive, and people will say they do better than men when they get opportunity to serve. Right. So it's something we are all praying
These
for.
conversations excite me, you know, because not only because I'm a woman, but I really want us to
but being a woman is also part.
Yes, a big part of it. Do you think that your administration did better in terms of the gender balance? If not, why is this such a pertinent conversation to be raised now?
Like he rightly said. So today, cabinet will be 4 women. Today, per the appointment, because there are 4 female. Leave out the regional ministers who are 3. So cabinet, there are 4. Akufo-Addo this time, there were 5. I know you are going to talk about the number. Because Akufo-Addo this time, there were more ministers. This time, they are looking at 60. Is that not the case?
Yeah.
The second leg, he talked about 8. And we are all praying that we improve.
Exactly.
So you cannot
has
be
this
sending us back.
administration's nomination not been an improvement in terms of the gender bill?
I haven't seen that.
Ah.
We haven't seen that.
Okay.
We haven't seen that. 1688. 83. We haven't seen that.
Okay.
I'll come to you briefly. There's something I want you to address as we move forward. But Yusuf Sulemana, I also heard something from Honorable Nyindam, he said that, oh, you are bigger than a deputy ministerial position. I didn't see you address that. So I want to ask you as well. If you were given, you've said that even if he
clean shoes, he will accept clean shoes. So obviously he will accept.
He will do it in the interest of the nation. If he gives you a deputy, that is the president, offers you a deputy ministerial position, is this something you will take?
Ben, this is my elder brother. Traditionally, even if he asks me to carry his bag to the office every day, I have no right to object to it. And so I am more than ready to serve him. If he says I should come and clean his room every morning, and that is what will make him succeed, I will do it. At the end of the day, whatever legacy he leaves, it's not a legacy just for him, but for the people of Bole, the tribe called Gonjes, the group of people called Northerners, and all of us as a people. And so whatever contribution you can make to ensure that he succeeds, it is an obligation. There's no any option, okay? So whatever responsibility His Excellency, the fair gentleman of the land, asks me to do, it is an obligation, and I have to do it with joy, okay? But let me just also say this. My colleague spoke about the fact that there's a need for us to have more women in parliament, and that he recognized the fact that NDC will have more women in parliament. I think he should applaud the NDC and its executives. That didn't just happen by chance. There was a strategic intervention to ensure that many women win primaries.
Right.
And even filing fees, we were considerate, the party was considerate as to how much female candidates will pay. And even in terms of support, women were strategically giving support than men. And that is what has resulted in the increase of numbers of women in parliament. And I think you should recognize that the NDC as a party is gradually working to ensure that women are given the opportunity to be able to win more seats, and so they are able to come to parliament. And then we can talk about appointing many more of them to be able to get the 30% or the balance that we are talking about. Right. So it's not just about saying it, but he should advise his party that they should be pragmatic, that they should put in place some strategies and policies to be able to get many women have the confidence to contest at the primaries, and that if there's a way to help them fairly, for them to be able to win the primaries so they can come to parliament, they should do it.
All right.
The NDC intend to ensure that areas where we call our strongholds, if women are contesting, and there's a way you can negotiate for men to even cede their interest for women to come in, whilst the men are also giving some attention somewhere, we will do it. And that's what we should be doing. And that's what the NDC has started. They can learn from us.
All right. We'll get to the bit about regional balance shortly, but I just wanted to put to you, beyond you, the nominees so far, and some of them have gone ahead to be appointed, given the green light to move forward. The likes of Afil Moni have spoken about the quality of nominations or appointments made so far. Beyond you, how do you feel about those who have been put forward, the quality of people who have been put forward for ministerial positions?
Yesterday, I had the opportunity to contribute to the motion for us to approve the first three that were vetted. And I tell you, from both sides, including my brother seated there, they all agree that indeed, this is the first time we've seen this kind of quality of men and women that have been nominated for such strategic positions. Take Honorable Dominic Ayeni. This is a guy a man whose reputation even goes beyond this country. Take my good brother, Honorable John Abdullah Jinapo, a young visionary person who is very knowledgeable, well experienced in the areas of energy and finance, ready to learn. And this is a guy who can give us an assurance that, look, the doomsday that we have inherited, go and sleep, we'll solve it. And indeed, he's solving it. Take my good brother, Honorable Atufosen. You agree with me that this is a man who really understands what we call finance. And he demonstrated this when he was interviewed. And so many of our men and women who have been nominated are apt and they are going to deliver. And they know it. And so for me, John Dramani Mahama is on course. So far, so good. The people he has nominated are the best. And even if you have many more that can do that same work, they have to wait. When the time comes, they will also be given the opportunity to serve.
That's an interesting point about they have to wait and when the time comes. But the reality too is, with the president saying that he's received thousands of CVs and with only 60 slots, you remember the president said some people are going to be disappointed. Sweetie.
Yeah. I want us to look at the regional imbalance that your side is accusing President John Dramani Mahama of. You're saying that the nominations we are seeing so far disproportionately favor some regions over others. How do you substantiate this claim?
Yeah, before I get that, obviously you my friend said a lot of things that I have to react to them.
You're enjoying speaking for him today.
No, I'm not speaking. No, I'm not speaking for him.
Let the reactions be bite-sized.
Because if you talk about we learning from them when it comes to assisting our female to come to parliament, they have rather even stolen our vision. Because in this country, it was a time we told people that, look, if a female is holding a position in parliament, if you want to contest, it should not be a man. It should be a woman. In this country. The NDC spoke against it. Today he's saying we should come and learn from them. When it comes to filing of nominations, MPP has always made sure that females who are ready to contest, young men who are ready to contest, they pay less of the filing fee. And we've given them enabling environment.
So, Honorable Nyanda,
so that
it appears both of you are doing the same thing, regardless of who copied whom.
No, we started it. We started it. So he can't say we should learn from them.
Honorable Nyanda, all I'm saying is,
he's just saying this time,
regardless of who copied whom.
Yes,
we are all happy because in the end,
yes,
we'll have more.
No, but let him know that they are copying from us. Okay. That aside. Right. Now your question is about
substantiate your claim that there's a regional imbalance in the nominations we're seeing so far.
You see, well, if you look at regional ministers, if you put regional ministers together, obviously, every regional minister will have to be appointed from the region. That one, you cannot debate that.
But I think in some cases, at least one case I know, you remember the...
Unless there is a reshuffle or there is a special
the Boku
problem.
situation,
There is a special
where to avoid any side claiming...
He was appointed. But when we realized that because of that conflict, he was shifted to Upper West. And then the Upper West was brought to Upper East. All things being equal, they will appoint all regional ministers from their region. Now, all other appointments, we think that, look, if you take Volta region, for instance, okay, it's press, the airways. If you go to OT, if you come to Volta ASF, if you come to Greater Accra, you see airways all along these areas. Our argument is that to whom much is given, much is expected. That's the call we are making. And like I said, even that one, I am not too keen about it. Although it's a call we have made, I am not too keen about it because if you want to go into the nitty-gritties of our various tribes, there is no precedent that can meet it. That I must be fair and sincere.
Yet your side is raising.
Oh yes,
or sounding the alarm.
It's not an alarm. We are just, you see, we are in opposition.
Are you really bringing this up?
You must draw people's attention to things that they have to do.
Honorable Nyanda, right. Are you bringing this up because Afenyomarkin, your leader, has brought it up? Has it become an issue because Afenyomarkin has spoken about it?
I don't understand your question.
Afenyomarkin has been speaking about, in fact, yesterday was talking about regional balance.
Yeah, he was just quoting the Constitution and making sure that, look, he's drawing
the Constitution has been the same since you've been in power. The Constitution has been the same.
It is. The Constitution has been the same since '92. But we keep criticizing it. They've been a letter or whatever that we are going to review the Constitution. Is that not the case?
Yeah.
Because there are some... Yes, there are some lapses that we think that we must cure. Is that not the case? So if Afenyomarkin is making a call and bringing out the current constitutional matters, I don't think that we should be faulting him. I don't think so.
No, I'm not saying we should fault him. I'm merely saying
don't say
become an issue because your leader has.
It is not that. It has become an issue because we think that. No. I'm not defending it. The issues are gender and other issues. My interest is gender. Okay, my interest is gender. But as for the other tribal thing, I've seen a map and they've gone every region 2. That's what they've done. But obviously, I don't want to go into it because I would have been going into 2 tribal issues.
And that's, I was about to ask.
And that is what I don't want to do.
Whether with these appointments.
I don't want to. Because I don't want to delve so much into the tribal matters. Because when you do that.
Because you don't have evidence to back this claim?
Sorry?
You've not been able to get into the tribal issues. Yes. Is it because you really don't have a... it's a non-issue?
You inflame passions.
You inflame passions?
When it comes to tribal emotions. So I don't want to delve much into it. Whoever is appointed, I believe that let's look at it. Let's remind President that, look, you can do more. There are so many tribes. Let's see how we can get everybody on board.
Why are we even having this conversation? Because part of the conversation, if you narrow it down, it comes back to ethnocentric tendencies.
That is where I don't want us to get.
No, but that's where we've got to.
No, look, he made a call. He quoted the Constitution, Article 25, and the various clauses that come under.
Afenyo Market was mentioning Gadangme and all of that. What was that?
I will not go into those details. He talked about gender, and my interest is about gender. That is what I want to focus on.
Right.
You've talked about the other issues, and I'm telling you that, look, Afenyo is not making a story on his own. He's just telling you what the Constitution is mandating the president to do. So in appointment, he should be mindful of the A, B, C, D. That's what Afenyo has done.
And what I'm saying is, you just said moments ago that you're simply shining lights on these issues, right? You're in opposition, so you have to draw the attention of Ghanaians that there are gender imbalances, regional imbalances, and all that. Now, I'm saying that it's not enough to just say that these things exist without actually giving the Ghanaian evidence to say that we are saying there's regional imbalance because we've seen too many nominations coming from the northern belt. And this is why we are saying that. You can't pick and choose what you speak to when this is a claim that your side is making. Is the point I'm making to you.
You still want to get me there.
No, because you've made this claim. You've said that there's regional imbalance. But there's nothing right now as we speak that we can fall on to say that indeed one region has been sidelined completely or the other, or someone is giving more attention to, you know what I mean? Yeah, if we cannot establish that, then we shouldn't make this claim.
He's read the Constitution in whole. He never read it in parts. Okay? So if you are reading the Constitution, the gender aspect and all these ones comes into that particular article. So he read it in whole. He could have mentioned 1 or 2 things that maybe for now is not materializing.
Right.
So the fact that he mentioned that doesn't mean that I should delve deep into it, because I don't want to look more tribalistic. I don't want to go that way. So I will always speak to what I think that is not going right, like the gender thing, where we think that, look, there must be more women appointment. And it should not just be deputy to make a case for our women who are more competent and having given that opportunity to serve. With regards to the tribal and the regional imbalances, for now, I would not want to delve into those ones. For now, they've been 2-2-2-2 across. We hope that the call from the minority leader that, look, be sensitive to Article 25 of our 1992 Constitution is something that the president must pay attention to. And I think that if he does that, he's going to help all of us.
My very last bit on the gender part is, with just about 18 more nominations to go, what can you do about it? How do you intend to escalate this call for gender parity or gender balance in the nominations?
We all intend to do it together, not me alone. Not me alone or the minority alone. Are you get what I'm saying? It's not just the minority alone. I've mentioned some names. There are other names that are there. Are you getting me? And I think that the president will reflect on this particular names. The president, maybe the reshuffling I believe that he will obviously reshuffle because he knows what it has cost the former president for not reshuffling. So I know he will reshuffle. And in the process of reshuffling, more of the women will be brought on board. And the few ones he wants to use as deputies, he should come to Parliament and look for the competent ones and then assist them to.
No, we're not going to get deputy ministers this time.
Well, I don't know. I don't really know what, because so far it's 42. They are left with 18. So if they are going to, for now, the ministries have been exhausted. Unless he wants to make them ministers of state.
What we know is that maybe
unless
the regional may not have
deputies. Yes, and me, even if you ask me, my position, I don't even subscribe to deputy ministers. I don't believe that.
Right.
Because sometimes the deputy ministers they are not given the opportunity to operate by their ministers. So,
but some ministries are so
make them ministers of state.
And I'm not saying deputies for all of them, but there are some that are so big.
Yes, like Minister of Finance. Support. If you take the Minister of Finance.
Exactly.
Ministers that are going to support the main finance minister must be ministers of state.
Right.
In charge of this, Minister of State, in charge of this, not deputy ministers. Right. Because when you make them deputy ministers, you weaken their stand.
Right.
Until the substantive minister gives you work to do, you have no work to do.
All right. For the sake of time, before I bring in Sulemana, Yusuf Sulemana again, quick thoughts on, I mean, Pandai is in the northern region.
Yes, it's in the northern region.
Representation there. Haruna Idrisu for education.
Yes.
You have Murtala Mohammed also getting something. How do you feel about the representation as far as your region is concerned? Your party is not in power, but how do you feel about the region and how it's being represented?
It's balanced for now. Because in a way, I won't say it's balanced. For now, it's okay.
Which is it? Is it balanced or is it imbalanced?
I don't want. You see, if you say it's balanced, there are some people who will call for
it is balanced.
Because I just recollected that if I go that tangent, it's not going to help.
You get fire from somewhere.
See, if you take the northern region, we have the Chumbrus that are there. We have the Nauris that are there. We have the Basaris that are there. We have the Konkombes that are there. We have the Dogombes that are there. That's why I'm careful going in that tangent. For now, Murtala is a Dogomba. Aruna is a Dogomba. Are you getting me? Nungpe is a Konkomba, the transport minister.
Right.
Then the regional minister is also a Konkomba. Other people are still left, unattended to. I get what I'm saying.
But you see, that is where it always gets
that is the difficult.
No person can appoint from all these
I've made it clear.
And again, the people who will be, and I'm not speaking necessarily about this.
Oh, yes.
The people who will be nominated would have to serve, I mean, education, the other groups, the Basaris will also benefit from that. Roads and highways. So sometimes it's a bit of a
I think my sister will agree with me why I did not want to go into the details. Because when you go into the details, you may come out with something you will be comfortable with.
All right. Let me quickly bring in Yusuf Sulemana. Yusuf, we'll be winding down on the conversation, but looking at the numbers that were promised, 60, and where we are currently, 42 down, 18 to go. Are your expectations that President Mahama, especially as you are as close as you are to him, will be able to meet the number 60 or thereabouts?
Yes, so the president has made this very, very clear. I remember I was at a meeting at Peduasu Lodge where we had the opportunity to look at our manifesto. And some people raised concern that the 60 was going to be a problem. And he said to them that he meant what he said and that he was going to appoint only 60 ministers. Don't forget, this is a man who has been there before. He's been a minister, a deputy minister, he's been a vice president, an acting president, and now a president. So when he speaks, he is speaking from an informed position. Now we're in Bole, when the regional executives of the NDC met with him, and their complaint was that, Mr. President, can you do something about this, your sister ministers? And he said, this is enshrined in our manifesto, and I'm going to go by what we have stated in our manifesto. Leave that to me. I won't be able to do with the 60. And indeed, he is doing with the 60. He's not going to go beyond the 60, but let me put it on record. Even if he had said that he was going to appoint 120, the former president appointed over 100. You think everybody was happy after the 100 and something ministers were appointed? Definitely no. It's a human institution. Some will be happy, some will not be happy. All we need to do is to ensure that those who are appointed are competent and they can represent the interests of all Ghanaians. That for me is very important. And so for me, His Excellency, the President, is going to do with the 60, and he has no any problem with that. And some of us around him have no problems with that. Now, just to react to a very simple...
Just a quick one before you react. Are you happy?
Yes, I'm happy. I am happy because...
I can see your face, you are not happy.
I am happy because I have a president who is worth more than 60 ministers. I am happy because the concerns of my people will be addressed. Let me tell you, in 2016, 2015, the NDC has started with so many projects in the Bole-Bamboi constituency. Roadworks, electrification, construction of a nursing teacher training college, and many, many more projects. When the MPP took over power, they abandoned all the projects. Today, I'm assuring you that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama will fix them. And that's the benefit we are talking about. And that is what is making me very happy. Over the years, since the 8 years of Nana...
looks like we lost...
We cannot reasonable numbers of people getting employment in my area. And so for me, I am happy because His Excellency John Dramani Mahama will deliver. Now, I go to the point that I was trying to make. When you ask him about whether or not he was happy with the representation of Northern region, he hesitated. There's a reason why he hesitated, but I won't want to go in there. What I want him to know is that the NDC has put together a committee, and it is this committee that is making the appointments. And the committee has averted its mind to all these issues of regional balance, ethnic balance, gender balance, and what have you. I just call on him and his people to exercise patience and see what will happen at the end of the day. They shouldn't behave as if they are the ones directing us as to what to do. That's the hypocrisy of the MPP. When they hear that you are doing this, quickly they come out to say it. They will look like they are the ones directing you. You are not the ones directing us. We know what we are doing. Ghanaians have given us an overwhelming majority. Allow us. You can make your criticisms, but I tell you, that is not going to affect His Excellency John Dramani Mahama's administration. Just 2 days ago, you held a meeting, the minority, and said that you should frustrate the business of the majority, and for that matter, government. Look, you cannot frustrate us. We have the overwhelming majority. Ghanaians have given us that majority for a reason. God has given us that majority for a reason, and we are going to deliver. Come on board, make your criticisms. Let us all come together to develop our nation. We have no place to go. Ghana is where we have. Ghana is what we have, and we must all work together to make our Ghana proud.
Yeah, my final bit to you, talking about frustrating government business and all that. The appointments committee has come under some fire for the pace at which they're moving and the controversies, and I think it's just an intersection between the competence of, the committee and the composure of the minority, I think. What's your assessment of all that? What do you think is happening?
So I think you would have realized that the minority, yes, sometimes there are very petty issues that they can raise, so that as we move forward, we correct those petty issues. Now, an issue like addressing a letter and copying a chief of staff or copying a secretary to cabinet when there's no secretary to cabinet shouldn't lead to a debate that will take more than 2 hours, just because they want to, as it were, frustrations. Look, I was just standing behind one of them during the vetting of one particular minister. And then he said that, look, I'm going to make sure that we close at 4 o'clock. This man leaves the seat at 4 o'clock. When it was around 2 o'clock. And indeed, he ensured that the candidate sat there, the nominee sat there until after 4 o'clock. If this is not frustration, what else is it?
Wow.
You are wasting our time.
Right.
You are wasting the time of Ghanaians. You are making sure that we don't get government to start working quickly. That is not patriotic enough.
Thank you, sir.
But I can understand them. It's difficult to stay in opposition. They have just started. They will be there for long, inshallah.
Thank you. Let me get back to the studio and ask you the same question. What's your assessment on the pace, the time wasting, the composure of minority, majority? What's your assessment?
And
what's happening
as
there?
you answer that question, also the quality of questions that have been asked. What do you make of them? Because sometimes it's not so much about how long the person is there, but the quality of what is being asked.
The NDC should be very thankful to the MPP, at least for once. We have cooperated and we have assisted government to put all ministers together, and then at the end of the day, they can start performing. We don't want excuses. For the first time, where you appoint a minister, by our standing orders, there should have been some time for the public to make some inputs. But we gloss over it. Appointments are made today, 2-3 days, vetting starts. And we make sure that all your candidates are going through. Now you say we are frustrating your business. How? It's not true.
Did you say you're making sure that all the candidates go through?
Yeah, because who is it that has been appointed and we said, oh, look, as a minority caucus, we are not going to support the person? Where? I'm just telling you that, look, under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, if a minister is appointed, at least a week for the public to make input if they want. Before vetting starts, ask your WAS, ask them. But this one, look at when the 3 nominees were appointed. The finance, energy, and then attorney general. 2-3 days, we started vetting. And the people were vetted.
Is that not also about the show of faith that the NDC has also brought to bear in terms of accelerating matters? You remember when President Akufo-Addo said he was a man in a hurry,
yes,
and some of the moves
even
in Parliament. You remember that?
Yes, even that one, it takes at least a week before vetting starts.
It doesn't have to be a week, does it?
That's what I'm saying. Yes, but sometimes it takes it's not even 2 weeks.
It took a week then. It doesn't have to be a week.
Look, per the orders, if you take order 217, 10 or something, when the names are published, we think that it is a public engagement because some people, you wouldn't know everything about somebody. You might know something that I don't know. So if you give the public the opportunity, they will also come. There are certain questions that you want some nominees to answer. I wouldn't know. You can get opportunity and let the committee have it. It's for that we give that particular period. But this one, we decided to do it quickly because we want the NDC government to fix their ministers so that nobody comes to complain. So you can't say we are frustrating business. Look, if it is about time wasting, it is not about MPP alone. Sometimes the chair of those committees can generate this kind of time wasting. I am a member of the appointment committee. I want to ask a question. Let me ask my question. Why do you want to protect the nominee? If you want to be overprotective, that's where you get prolonged sitting. And check.
But some protection is always,
about whether
is
the
always
question
allowed.
is better.
Whether it's Ghana or the UK or the US, some protection is always in order.
So,
and your side has done it, their side is doing it a bit.
So why are we complaining that somebody is frustrating government business? Because if you go and take some of the ministers that worked under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, some had over 6 hours. 4 hours.
I don't know about 6 hours. I know 4 hours.
Go and look at Godfred Damis vetting. Go and look at it. Go and look at the number of hours.
6 hours?
Go and look at it.
I thought one of the longest was
Kwabena
Jako.
You see, I said go and look at Godfred Damis vetting and look at the number of hours that we spent. I don't endorse it. Okay? Because the appointment committee is not an examination center. Whether you pass or you don't pass. If the president decides that, look, this is the young man I want to go and serve under this ministry, we are just to check whether the person has some kind of criminal records, what the 1992 Constitution stipulates, Article 94, whether the person meets all those things.
Fit to serve.
Exactly. If the person meets all those things, all other things you are doing, you are just wasting your time.
Which is why even if you keep someone there for 1 hour,
it doesn't. Yes, that's what I'm saying. That there are basic things that the Constitution wants us to look at. But sometimes we also want to test the competence of the person. And my brother, it is not the vetting, how fluent, how good you have spoken, that can let you be a successful minister. Right. It's not true.
Right.
There are people who at vetting level couldn't maybe express themselves, but you go to the ministry and they've performed marvelously well.
Indeed.
So for those kind of things, it's for the public, it's for the cameras. But I think that for the time wasting, sometimes the chairman, they should allow the person, no matter how foolish that question is, allow the nominee to answer.
Are you indirectly addressing Bernard Ahiafo?
Ahiafo is my friend. I'm addressing, what's the name? Yusuf, who is claiming that we're trying to frustrate their business. We are not frustrating anybody. Look, yesterday, we have to do the approvals. The first 3 came. We finished it. Just then, they decided to bring the other sets. We thought we were going to do it today. But we felt like, after all, the people have invented. If the report is ready, what is wrong with that? Let's get it done. All the 6 were approved yesterday. We are waiting for the next set where the appointment committee is coming out with their report, I'm sure by close of today. We want to make sure that this government forms as early as possible. We don't want complaints. We agree.
So you can start applying pressure.
Ghanaians have given them overwhelming majority. We won't complain. Are you getting me? 1 year will pass. We will look at what is going to happen.
What's an active opposition?
We don't pray for any. Look, all
because you're sounding like okay.
No, we are okay. Oh, anyhow. Okay. The young men that are going and they are touting, they are this, we all know them. Okay. Most of them, honestly, most of them have been deputy ministers before. Most of those appointees that have been elevated to...
Murtala Mohammed, deputy for trade and industry, look, he's now been...
Yes, all of them. Most of... Look, what's the name? Finance minister, he's been a deputy minister before. Yeah. Mines has been a deputy before. Attorney General has been a deputy minister before.
Dr. Aine.
Yes. Agric minister has been a minister before. Not even once. Aruna has been
4 times.
4 times minister before. So these are people that we are sending there. And for that matter, obviously, we have some kind of knowledge about the ministry. So it's not something that...
But there are new ones who are also very well versed. I mean, Opariado.
Yes, Opariado.
Latte.
Yes.
Doc and others who
they are new. They are not coming. I get what I'm saying. But like I said, nobody will have excuse about we the minority not supporting government business. We're making sure that the opposition will support them, give them all the tools they need. Then from there,
then you start.
We will start. Oh yeah,
let's get.
But I just have an interesting. Put him. Uchi
Oh, but
from Pandai. Do you know why I'm bringing up the achievement? No. You remember Afenyo Market to Haruna Idrisu about his chi and a bit about his wife.
My
I'm impressed.
Very good. I stayed in Kumasi for 8 years.
Oh, okay.
So
let's get final words from Yusuf Sulemana. You have the final words, sir.
Yeah. So let me say that I think that my colleague and Ghanaians should appreciate the proactiveness of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the majority. Yes, we could have waited to advertise for a week like they did, even though the president had promised that he was in a hurry. John Dramani Mahama hasn't promised that he's in a hurry, but he has realized that it is not wrong for you to quickly get your ministers vetted. And so he has taken up that opportunity, and so we are on course. Again, you see, they have no option. Ghanaians have spoken. Whether you come in or you don't come in, we have, a quorum to go ahead. It is just because of the beauty of democracy that we are entertaining this. If not, Ghanaians have decided that even without them, they can sit in their houses, they can sit in their rooms, they can sit in their offices and watch us if they so choose. But I'm saying that let us work together. We have Ghana to build, and together we should be able to make Ghana proud. And we are thanking God that we have an experienced person on the seat. This is not somebody who says that, give me the steer to try. He's tried it, he has perfected himself, and he's on course. That tells you that we're not going to waste time. And so he promised to deliver his cabinet ministers in 2 weeks after swearing in. He has done that. All the promises, people have been tasked to put their eyes on them so that he can meet them. And that is leadership. And this morning, I want to congratulate him once again and to say that his younger brother, his Sulemana, and the people of Bole-Bamboi want to apologize to him and that we are proud of him.
Yusuf Sulemana is Member of Parliament for Bole-Bamboi. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Let's give you the final word now.
You see, those statements that they've been making, that Ghanaians have spoken, we could have sat in our, if we want, we'll sit in our houses here and there. We've passed campaign level. He should stop that. 2016, we had 169. We thought we were there. We thought nobody would come. We thought the NDC is dead. The next parliament, we came struggling to get numbers. You see, it's not for nothing that the Bible says that, look, there is joy in death than birth. Okay? If you have just given birth, you are yet to grow. You don't know what the world has for you. But if you are dying, you are goodbying. Everybody has seen your whatever you've been able to do. They are not coming. They should limit the talk. Okay. They should limit the talk. We know His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. He served us before. This is a new John Dramani Mahama. Ghanaians have given him the responsibility. Let him serve us. Okay. It's too early for him to be boasting. But like I said, the minority will do business with the majority. We will never frustrate government business.
When you say it's too early for him to be boasting, are you referring to the president?
No. The spokesperson for the president this morning. He's the one I'm referring to. Yes. He's the one I'm referring to. But like I said, we are not ready to frustrate any government business.
Right.
We have a country to govern. It is all a collective responsibility. Parliament is a wing of government. So we are part of government. So he cannot just run us down. The 88 that we have in Parliament is a big number. And we're going to make sure that we will obviously hold them accountable. We will play our oversight responsibility carefully. And at the end of the day, Ghanaians will weigh their performance, weigh our performance, and see that 2028, they have a choice to make.
Yusuf says you are going to be in opposition for a long time.
We have said this. Are you getting me? We've said this over and over and over.
Right.
Today this is where we find ourselves.
Right.
So that one, I don't want to begrudge him. He's entitled to his opinion. Right. But I want to beg the president, on behalf of my brother, Yusuf. I know all what
But are you
said.
enjoying the opposition so far?
Oh,
Yusuf says you will enjoy this position for a while. Are you enjoying opposition?
This opposition is for 4 years.
Sir.
Oh, yes. It's for 4 years.
You say that with such confidence.
It's for 4 years. 2028, we're going into elections. 2028 is an election time. Right. Ghanaians will go to the polls again to decide who leads them. And I'm telling you, they should not be too much complicit. Okay. They should not think that they are there. No, it's dangerous.
Right. Matthew Nyendam
I haven't finished appealing to
the we have
president.
to go.
No. The
do this in less than 30 seconds.
Oh, it will even be less than that. I want my brother, you see, fixed somewhere. That's what I want to appeal to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Because I can see that my friend is not happy. But he can't speak.
He says he's happy.
What
is your concern?
The grassroots have spoken his mind. It's only the violent aspect that
you cannot grieve for those affected by
death. The grassroots have spoken my man's mind. But for the violence, it is not his mind. But for the appointment, that is his mind.
Martin Nyendam, thank you you very much, sweetie.
Yes, Martin Nyendam is former Majority Chief Whip and Member of Parliament for Kwandai.